Chapter 1347. Lu Ping's heart skipped a beat. To be able to fly in the world of the altar, one had to be at least a great practitioner. The person who had just arrived was probably even more powerful than the great practitioner in front of him. Lu Ping immediately stopped his practice, and the Linglong wine cauldron retracted back into Lu Ping's house of gold. As the rich water spirit essence had lost its source, it was quickly absorbed by Lu Ping's body, and the last bit of spirit qi around Lu Ping also disappeared. The beam of light descended, and a great practitioner walked out from it. The cultivator from before hurried forward, seeming to be very respectful to the person who had just arrived. Lu Ping was stunned when he saw the person. He knew this person, and he had fought with him before. It was the great practitioner with the surname Gu, who had teamed up with a great practitioner from Wuxing School who had used a spirit fan to intercept Lu Ping on the Qingming River. Lu Ping remembered that this person was using a spirit treasure in the shape of a yellow mountain peak. At that time, although the two of them had joined forces to seriously injure Lu Ping, they had not been able to get away with it in the end. The spirit treasure in the hands of the great practitioner who had used the spirit fan had been cut into pieces by Lu Ping's spirit treasure scissors. However, from the way they had fought at that time, although this Wuxing School cultivator with the surname Gu had a good level of practice, he was not considered to be very powerful. However, this person could be considered to have made a name for himself during the battle at the Nine Mystical Tower. If Lu Ping remembered correctly, this person was ranked 9th on the list of late Dharma adepts. Because this person had some enmity with Lu Ping, and because he was a cultivator from Wuxing School, Lu Ping could not help but pay more attention to him. However, it was also because of this that Lu Ping did not dare to agree with the late Dharma adepts on the list of late Dharma adepts. In Lu Ping's opinion, if someone with the surname Gu's level of practice could be ranked in the top 10, could it be that there were no late Dharma adepts who could do so? Lu Ping did not dare to say that it was because he was really too strong. He was not that arrogant. He also knew that there were many extremely powerful late Dharma adepts, and he would not think that all the great practitioners were mediocre just because he had defeated a few great practitioners before. But now, when Lu Ping sensed the aura around this great practitioner, he could not help but be shocked. This person's current strength was really beyond Lu Ping's expectations. This was not the great practitioner who had not ambushed Lu Ping, and had instead almost been injured by Lu Ping. With the level of practice that this person had displayed now, back then on the Qingming River, Lu Ping would not have been able to escape from the joint attack of this great practitioner and the other great practitioner. This person definitely could not have hidden his strength back then, so there was only one possibility. In a short period of time after the battle at Luo Xian Mountain, this person's level of practice and strength had increased unimaginably, and the evidence was that in a very short period of time after the battle at Luo Xian Mountain, this person's divine will had caused Lu Ping to be able to sense the violent and uncontrollable fluctuations of the aura from far away, even though he had been afraid of being discovered. Clearly, this was because this person's strength had suddenly increased, and his true essence and divine will were still unable to effectively coordinate and control them, so he could not restrain the aura around him. Because Lu Ping's divine sense didn't dare to get too close, he couldn't find out what the two were discussing. However, the Five Element sect's great cultivator surnamed Gu seemed to be giving orders to the other great cultivator, and the other great cultivator kept nodding with a respectful expression. In the end, the great cultivator surnamed Gu waved his hand, and a streak of light rose up beneath his feet, as if beckoning him to follow him. The great cultivator looked back, and his expression seemed to be very hesitant. Clearly, it was because of the stone he had smashed into the ground. However, this great practitioner clearly did not want the Gu cultivator from Wuxing School to know about the existence of the chiming stone, but he also did not want to leave the stone behind, so he looked very conflicted. The cultivator surnamed Gu clearly didn't know what was going on, and upon seeing the great cultivator's hesitation, he immediately rebuked him. In the end, the great cultivator had no choice but to follow behind the cultivator surnamed Gu in a swaying manner. Lu Ping felt a surge of joy from the bottom of his heart to the tip of his hair. His luck was simply too good. Lu Ping did not immediately set off. Instead, he estimated that the two great practitioners had already flown far enough away, and that their divine will would no longer be able to cover the cultivation ground of the previous great practitioner. Only then did Lu Ping quickly fly towards the chiming stone that had been smashed into the ground. Even though Lu Ping was very happy at the moment, he did not dare to be careless. As he moved quickly, he did his best to conceal the aura around him, and at the same time, he used the cloud sails to transform into auspicious clouds to conceal himself. This way, even if someone was spying on him in the dark, they would not be able to see Lu Ping's true appearance. Lu Ping arrived at the cultivation ground of the friar. He stretched out his hand and pointed at the ground. The irregular stone that had been smashed into the ground earlier flew out, and Lu Ping grabbed it in his hand. Hiss! The moment Lu Ping's hand came into contact with the stone, a vague but extremely strange sound penetrated into Lu Ping's divine will. Caught off guard, Lu Ping's body could not help but sway. However, it was a good thing that Lu Ping's divine will was strong enough, and he quickly recovered from the strange impact of the divine will. When he looked at the stone in his hand again, it was just an ordinary stone, and he could not see anything special about it. Lu Ping did not have time to carefully examine the stone in his hand. He turned around and once again headed in the direction of the altar ruins. This time, he went 15 kilometers in one go, and only then did he slow down due to the continuous depletion of the inner yuan in his body. The previous location of the great practitioner was about 10 kilometers away from where Lu Ping had descended. This time, Lu Ping went another 15 kilometers. At this time, he was probably in the ring-shaped area of the late Dharma stage, where the great practitioner who was ranked around 20th in the late Dharma stage was. Lu Ping retracted the auspicious cloud and stomped his foot. Circles of white light spread out from the inside, and Lu Ping's body gradually became blurry until he disappeared. A blurry lotus pattern flashed on the ground for a moment and then disappeared without a trace. At this time, Lu Ping was carefully examining the stone in his hand. The surface of the stone looked ordinary, and there was nothing unusual about it. However, at this time, he could already confirm that this stone was without a doubt the fragment of the legendary God Stone of musical resonance. This was because Lu Ping's divine will could already sense that there was a powerful will within this stone, and this will was sealed and blocked by an even more powerful force. This caused the will that Lu Ping felt to be a vague sound. Even so, Lu Ping was able to confirm its identity through this vague will. This piece of God Stone of musical resonance should be one of the 7 pieces of God Stone of musical resonance that Taoiseach was sitting on. Lu Ping's judgment came from the tone and intonation of this vague will as it spoke. This was also a common method that Lu Ping had learned from Lin Yu Laozu about the identity of the God Stone of musical resonance. The 7th patriarch's speech was truly the law. Sometimes, it was not only the 1 or 2 sentences that could enlighten people, but the tone and intonation of his speech could also give a cultivator a powerful warning. The two complemented each other, and this was the true rarity of the God Stone of musical resonance. Although the content of the will was sealed in the God Stone of musical resonance, it could not conceal the tone and intonation of the will. Although these things could no longer give a cultivator a powerful warning without any actual content, they became the basis for cultivators to determine the identity of the stone. It was based on this that Lu Ping determined that this stone came from the records of Taoist Chan's speech. Lu Ping was more or less disappointed. Taoist Chan's stone was obviously not of much use to Lu Ping, who cultivated in Zhao Doran's direct line of cultivation method. However, it was a God Stone of musical resonance after all. If Lu Ping could suppress the will of Taoist Chan contained within it, he could at least pass on the contents of the mantra recorded in it to someone useful in the sect. Although it would lack the power of the tone and intonation, it would still be a great fortune for Zhenling if he could obtain 1 or a few sentences of the 7th patriarch's speech. Of course, if Lu Ping could forcibly erase the will of the 7th patriarch after suppressing it, Lu Ping would still be able to bring this stone out of the world of the Tao altar. However, it could only be used to forge the bell of the ocean. The God Stone of musical resonance that Longhuai ancestor requested from him could only contain the will of Zhao Daoran. However, he did not know why Longhuai ancestor would want this stone without the will of Zhao Daoran in it. Lu Ping held the stone in his hand. A strong stream of energy, accompanied by a powerful divine will, seeped into the stone. Lu Ping immediately felt a sharp cry piercing through his divine will like an awl. Even with the protection of the jade phosphorus soulfire and the cloud sail, Lu Ping still felt a sharp pain as if he was being pricked by needles. At the same time, the energy that seeped into the stone seemed to have encountered a tough wall. Lu Ping's energy tried to break through the wall, but it bounced back when it hit the wall. Instead, it stopped Lu Ping's energy from flowing into the stone. Just as the scream and the obstruction of the Zhen Yuan entered the heart-core space, the avatar of dragon seemed to have sensed something. It abruptly raised its head and let out a furious roar. The faint dragon roar pierced through the stone slab in his hand, and Lu Ping could feel Daoist Chan's will in the stone slab flinching a little in that instant. If it were not for the fact that Lu Ping's divine will was strong enough, it would have been very difficult for him to detect this slight change. With a thought, Lu Ping summoned a purple-gold auspicious cloud behind him. From the cloud, the Dharma form of the dragon reached out a giant claw and pressed it against the rubble. At the same time, a deafening dragon roar rang out. Lu Ping felt the will that was as solid as a wall in the middle of the rubble suddenly crumble. Lu Ping's true essence and divine will seized the opportunity to enter, suppressing the will that originated from Daoist Chan. Then, a clear voice came from the gravel and entered Lu Ping's ears. Lu Ping was startled and fell into confusion. Then, his eyes gradually became clear, and he slapped his thigh with a smile. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I didn't know that the 7-colored restriction-breaking talisman could be drawn like this. Even though this piece of rock had only given him pointers on how to advance the 7 attributes simultaneously to draw the restriction-breaking talisman, it still allowed Lu Ping to fully appreciate the wonders of the Divine Sound Stone. If Lu Ping had only brought out the words recorded in the Divine Stone, perhaps he would be able to gain some enlightenment like Tian Shuelaozu, who had completed the master-level task of drawing talismans. However, it was impossible for her to have the same comprehension as Lu Ping. This was the ingenuity of the Divine Sound Stone. As for the third method provided by the Divine Stone, although Lu Ping did not receive any enlightenment that was similar to enlightenment, he believed that it was another method that required precious cultivation resources to use spiritual items of the 7 attributes. However, considering how precious and difficult it was to refine the restriction-breaking talisman, if he could figure out this method, it would be a shortcut at a crucial moment. Lu Ping went over the comprehension he had obtained from his divine thoughts a few more times. After confirming that he had memorized every single detail, he once again focused his attention on the divine stone fragment. The stone fragment itself was also a precious spiritual material. Right now, Lu Ping was thinking about how he could completely erase Daoist Chan's consciousness that was hidden within it, then bring it out of the Dao altar world to refine the vast ocean bell. All of a sudden, a jade-green flame that could only be sensed by divine thoughts rose from Lu Ping's palm. It surrounded the divine stone and burned it. At the same time, Lu Ping's divine thoughts surged into the divine stone wave after wave. It was as if he was bringing wave after wave of divine thoughts to attack Daoist Chan's consciousness that was hidden within the divine stone. However, even though this stone fragment only contained an incomplete consciousness, it was still something left behind by the 7th patriarch who opened up the heavens. Lu Ping was only able to suppress it with the help of summoning his Dharma idol. He had used almost all of his strength. Now, if he wanted to erase it, it would be much more difficult than just suppressing it. However, Lu Ping could still sense the fear of the incomplete consciousness that was hidden within the stone fragment. This fear obviously originated from the Dharma power of the dragon that Lu Ping had used to suppress it, as well as the jade phosphor soulfire in Lu Ping's hand. This was also because Lu Ping had the divine thoughts and cultivation of a pure young adept, as well as the jade phosphor soulfire, a treasure that was rare even among the heaven-level superior-grade spiritual fires. If it had been anyone else, even the most elite late Dharma adept, they would have been helpless against this and could only hope to obtain the divine stone fragment that the 7th patriarch's consciousness had left behind. Lu Ping thought for a moment. If he summoned the Dharma power of the dragon once again and used the jade phosphorus soulfire to forcibly erase this remnant consciousness, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. If that happened, even the White Lotus formation would not be able to suppress it, and he was afraid that it would attract the attention of others. Lu Ping's expression changed. After thinking for a moment, he finally gritted his teeth, and the auspicious clouds behind him rose once again. This time, the Dharma power of the dragon was no longer elusive. The magnificent and noble purple-gold body of the dragon circled above Lu Ping's head. If not for Lu Ping's efforts to restrain it, the moment the Dharma power of the dragon appeared, the roar of the dragon would have been enough to shake the surroundings. The stone fragment slowly rose from Lu Ping's hand. Lu Ping's eyes were tightly shut, and all of his divine thoughts had left his body and were channeled into the divine thoughts of the Dharma power above his head. At this moment, it was as if Lu Ping had transformed into the Dharma power of the dragon. He stared intently at the stone rising from Lu Ping's hand, and then the Dharma power of the dragon suddenly took a deep breath. The emerald green flame was immediately sucked into the Dharma power's mouth, and a formless dragon flame was spat out from the mouth of the Dharma power at the stone fragment. A shrill scream that could only be heard by divine thoughts came from the stone fragment. Lu Ping's divine thoughts felt a tearing pain coming straight at him. In desperation, a cloud sail rose from the depths of one of the Dharma power's dragon claws and slowly rose from Lu Ping's storage magic tool. The auspicious cloud around the Dharma power was once again wrapped in a layer of auspicious clouds. However, Lu Ping knew that this shrill scream of divine thoughts was not just directed at him. At this time, all of Lu Ping's divine thoughts were used to deal with the remnant thoughts in the God Stone. He did not know how far the scream had spread, but one thing Lu Ping knew was that at this time, someone had probably noticed him in this direction. After all, he had to erase this thought as much as possible. Otherwise, it would definitely attract other people to spy on him or even rob him. Under the blessing of the Dharma power of the dragon, the jade phosphorus fire soul had clearly damaged the remnant thoughts in the God Stone, but it was obviously not easy to completely erase it. It seemed that only by continuously burning the thoughts in the jade phosphorus soul fire could it be completely erased. However, this would obviously take a long time, and what Lu Ping lacked the most now was time. Just as Lu Ping was thinking about whether to give up and leave this place first, a thought floating in the world of the Tao altar was suddenly clearly captured by the divine thoughts possessed by the Dharma power of the dragon. What is the three lights? The three lights are the sampling of the body. When they merge into one, it is called the divine water, the sea of life, and the dragon soars. This heavy voice could not be more familiar to Lu Ping. It was the voice that had previously given the name to the cultivation method that Lu Ping practiced. Three lights, sampling of the body. Lu Ping seemed to have understood something. The so-called sampling of the body should be the three types of heaven and earth treasures that Lu Ping had smelted when he was in the core forging stage. Although the heaven and earth treasures had turned into essential core, their spirituality was still there. They could condense the three lights into the divine water of life and form a sea of life in the core space, which would be the true home of the Dharma power of the dragon. Although the dragon roared proudly in the universe, its true home was still the sea. This was actually a word of advice for the cultivation of a natural magical power. However, when Lu Ping sensed this thought, he actually magically understood it and understood the cultivation method of this natural magical power. The formation of the sea of life, formed by the triple light's sacred water, was obviously dependent on the three heaven and earth treasures that the cultivator had smelted when he was in the core forging stage. The power of the triple light's sacred water was also dependent on the quality of the heaven and earth treasures that the cultivator had smelted. Moreover, the characteristics of the heaven and earth treasures that were smelted were different, and the characteristics of the natural magical power were also different. However, the natural magical water was collectively known as the triple light's sacred water. The three heaven and earth treasures that Lu Ping had smelted when he was in the core forging stage were the dark essence heavy water, the wonder dew, and the thunder calamity water. These three heaven and earth treasures were thick, long, and violent. As Lu Ping comprehended them, they automatically circulated in Lu Ping's body and gradually condensed into a drop of triple light's sacred water in the core space. As Lu Ping's essential essence circulated, the natural magical water continued to condense continuously. However, the Dharma power of the dragon could not wait any longer. The first drop of natural magical water floated outside his body and was swallowed by the Dharma power of the dragon. Then, it turned into a cloud of mist and seeped into the sacred sound stone. Lu Ping's divine will sensed that the remnant will in the sacred sound stone did not even have time to scream before it was completely dissolved by the mist. After spitting out the mist, the Dharma power of the dragon seemed to be extremely tired. It turned around and scuttled back into Lu Ping's core space. After his divine will returned, Lu Ping felt dizzy and his body felt empty. After looking inside himself, Lu Ping could not help but be stunned. At this moment, 2 drops of triple light's sacred water had condensed in the core space. However, the essential essence in his body had been depleted by 70% to 80% because of the 3 drops of triple light's sacred water. However, after the Dharma power of the dragon returned to the core space, it gently tapped its claws and the 2 drops of triple light's sacred water immediately fused together. Then, the enlarged water droplets continued to expand until they formed a giant lake in the core space. The Dharma power of the dragon let out a joyful roar and dived into the lake. It did not seem tired at all. However, at this moment, Lu Ping did not dare to slow down. He endured the emptiness caused by the lack of essential essence and kept the lotus array under his feet. Then, he left this place as quickly as possible. Chapter 1349. Alas, it's really annoying to follow you. Why do you practice a wood attribute cultivation method? Otherwise, we would have reached our destination a long time ago. On Jiang Tianlin Laozu's shoulder, a huge praying mantis bared its fangs and brandished its claws to vent its dissatisfaction. Jiang Tianlin had a smile on his face, but his eyes flickered with caution. All his divine sense swept in different directions from time to time. Don't worry, with the help of my water transformation technique, even if a pure young cultivator really notices you, they may not be able to catch up. Besides, at this time, those pure young cultivators are maintaining the space portal of the Tao altar world in the land of West River. They don't have the time to pay attention to an ordinary great cultivator like you. Having Mantis continued to prattle on, but Jiang Tianlin was still as cautious as ever. A few days after Zhenling's several cultivators on the battle merit list were sent to the 3 secret realms and the Tao altar world, Jiang Tianlin Laozu finally found a chance to not attract attention and came to the bank of Qingming River in West River. Relying on the water transformation technique that Lu Ping had left for him, he plunged into Qingming River and flowed eastward, heading for Zhenling's encampment near the 9 Mysteries Tower. After discussing with Lu Ping, Jiang Tianlin still planned to find an opportunity to cut off the water vein branch after the Tao altar world opened and hide it in the Yingshu treasure mirror. Jiang Tianlin Laozu could be regarded as an illustrious and knowledgeable person in the cultivation world of the North Sea, but even so, he never expected to really come into contact with a pure young spirit treasure one day. Even if he firmly believed that Zhenling would be carried forward in the hands of his generation and become a large sect, completing Zhenling's dream of passing down the legacy for more than 10,000 years, a pure young spirit treasure still seemed so far out of reach for him. However, at this time, real pure young spirit treasure appeared in front of him and was truly in his hands. Even though he had always been free and easy, it was difficult for him to suppress the excitement in his heart. The only thing that annoyed him a little was that this mantis seemed to be too talkative. Since they had traveled all the way from the west of the river, this fellow had already muttered tens of thousands of words into his ear. As the spirit of a pure young spirit treasure, this fellow obviously would not be the least bit courteous just because he was his master's uncle. Even when faced with a great adept of the late Dharma stage, there had been all sorts of sarcasm and criticism and all sorts of attacks along the way. Fortunately, Jiang Tianlin was a magnanimous person, and on account of the pure young spirit treasure, he naturally would not lower himself to the same level as the mantis. However, there were times when he would curse in his heart, such a talkative guy. I wonder how my disciple put up with it. If Lu Ping had heard this, he would probably have laughed in his heart. After the spirit of a pure young spirit treasure had advanced to the pure young spirit treasure, it hoped that it would converge with humans and communicate with intelligent practitioners. If it had been Lu Ping, he would have directly kept it in his core space. At most, he would have entered the House of Gold and let the mantis harm his followers. However, Jiang Tianlin obviously still maintained some respect for this pure yang spirit treasure. Along the way, he still needed the help of this fellow to use the water transformation technique, so he could only endure this fellow's nagging. With great difficulty, they finally arrived at the encampment. This mantis knew that it was time for business, so it became much quieter. This allowed Jiang Tianlin to finally heave a sigh of relief. It could be seen that the pressure this mantis placed on a great cultivator like Jiang Tianlin was quite heavy. Jiang Tianlin secretly patrolled along the Qingming River near the encampment several times until he confirmed that there were no cultivators nearby. Then, under the impatient urging of the mantis, Jiang Tianlin arrived near the buried underground well where Jinling's encampment was previously located. Following the underground river vein that Lu Ping had guided to the encampment, Jiang Tianlin arrived at the fork of the Qingming River a few kilometers upstream. By then, a bronze mirror had already appeared in Jiang Tianlin's hand. The bronze mirror suddenly disappeared from Jiang Tianlin's hand, and a trace of abnormality suddenly appeared in the Qingming River where Jiang Tianlin was. If one looked down from the sky at the river's surface, one could clearly see that the river's surface was as calm as a mirror. Done. Done. Jiang Tianlin nodded. That's it? The problem is that we can't be discovered and leave without anyone noticing. It's not about how difficult it is to cut off this spirit vein. Yes, the mantis said proudly. With this mantis here, cutting off a water vein is naturally a piece of cake. Jiang Tianlin's face darkened. Fortunately, this mantis also knew that this was not the time to delay. The river's surface strangely calmed down. Anyone who saw it would know that there was a problem below. The mantis's body shook, and two thin wings spread out from its back. Then, it attached itself to a huge purple-gold pair of scissors. This pair of scissors was so huge that Jiang Tianlin had to use both hands to control it. The praying mantis complained that Jiang Tianlin's would attribute true essence made it uncomfortable. As Jiang Tianlin clasped his hands together, two sharp blade lights cut off the connection between this branch vein and the main vein of the Qingming River. Rumble. The violent vibration of the main vein of the Qingming River made it impossible for this section of the water to be completely calm, even with the suppression of the abundant void treasured mirror. Jiang Tianlin also clearly felt that although the vibration from the water vein had been greatly weakened by the abundant void treasured mirror, it still could not completely conceal the turbulence of the water vein. He didn't know if the 9 profound tower would notice anything wrong. Haha, I said it was easy with this mantis here. Hey, what are you doing, hey? Not waiting for the mantis to boast again. Jiang Tianlin no longer indulged at this time. He directly threw it into an empty spirit grass garden that had just been opened up and had not yet been planted with spirit grass. Jiang Tianlin had already disappeared from this heavenly cave magic treasure. Not far away in the sky was a waterfall that was constantly being pulled down like a thread. It was the cut-off water vein. Jiang Tianlin followed the cut-off water vein all the way, and then put it into a small lake in the heavenly cave of the abundant void treasured mirror as fast as he could. Then, he put away the abundant void treasured mirror and flew along the Qingming River towards the source of the river upstream. At this time, Jiang Tianlin had the time to summon the 2 halves of the spirit treasure from the abundant void treasured mirror. Before the mantis could complain, he had already injected vigorous Zhen Yuan into the scissors again. Casting the water transformation divine ability, Jiang Tianlin plunged into the Qingming River like a fish and disappeared. In the world of the Taoist altar, after condensing 3 drops of triple light divine water and completely erasing Taoist Chan's will from a piece of Qingming stone, Lu Ping could not care less about the loss of Zhen Yuan in his body and quickly retreated to the side. The reason why he retreated was that the further he was from the ruins of the Taoist altar, the lighter the double pressure on Lu Ping would be, and his strength would be maximized. The reason why he retreated was because the will of Jiao Daoran, who cultivated the triple light divine water, seemed to be coming from that direction when Lu Ping summoned the Dharma form of the dragon. This was indeed a strange thing. For thousands of years, there had been many cultivators who entered the world of the Taoist altar and were guided by the will of the 7th patriarch. However, no one had ever heard of anyone being able to determine the direction of the will and eventually find the piece of Qingming stone by chance. Yet, Lu Ping could sense the direction of Zhao Dorn's will. Although he could not confirm that the piece of God's stone was there, Lu Ping was inexplicably confident. Confused, Lu Ping could only attribute all this to the cultivation method he was cultivating. The Soaring Dragon Galaxy technique? This was one of the 7 cultivation methods personally taught by Zhao Daoren. It must be this cultivation method that attracted the attention of Zhao Doran's remnant will. However, Lu Ping soon noticed that he seemed to be being followed. After retreating several kilometers in that direction, Lu Ping had encountered at least 3 wills. 2 of them were at the Great Cultivator level. Lu Ping was shocked. At this moment, he realized that he was too impatient. If he retreated, he would be able to shake off the cultivators who were chasing after the wave of the will of the God's stone. This was because when most cultivators were trying their best to go deeper into the Taoist altar, they would never think that Lu Ping would go in the opposite direction. However, as Lu Ping retreated diagonally, he could not avoid encountering cultivators along the way. At this moment, Lu Ping did not advance but retreated. This abrupt action was suspicious in the eyes of others. At this moment, Lu Ping made a prompt decision to stop. Then, he sat cross-legged on the ground and began to cultivate. The aura around him was fluctuating, as if he had suffered a serious injury. This was also a scene that often happened in the Taoist altar world. In order to pursue a breakthrough in cultivation, some cultivators would constantly move deeper into the Taoist altar ruins in an attempt to dig out their own potential. However, in the end, not only did they fail to break through, they were also seriously injured and had to be pushed to the periphery of the Taoist altar world to recuperate. Cultivators who did not hesitate to harm themselves for a breakthrough in cultivation were rarely provoked. People who were ruthless to themselves were often more ruthless to others. There was no need to find trouble with these people because of some doubts. Moreover, the Taoist altar world did not tolerate the existence of killing, so there was naturally no point in taking advantage of the situation to rob others. Lu Ping pretended to be an injured cultivator who had retreated to the periphery of the Taoist altar world. He took the opportunity to take 2 pills to recover his primary energy and began cultivating. As expected, he managed to deceive the 3 divine senses that were tracking him. However, Lu Ping dared not be careless. After cultivating for 3 days, he did not find any more divine senses wandering around him. Only then did Lu Ping cautiously move in the direction that Zhao Doran's divine sense had sensed. This time, however, Lu Ping had learned his lesson. Not only did he change his direction from time to time, he also paid careful attention to whether there were other cultivators around him. For hours later, Lu Ping finally arrived at a place not far away from where he had sensed the divine sense. At that moment, however, Lu Ping had no choice but to stop and quickly retract his aura to the minimum. Tens of li away, 5 great cultivators were gathered there. Lu Ping did not know what they were doing. 2 of the 5 were the great cultivators that Lu Ping had picked up and the great cultivator surnamed Gu from Wuxing School who had called him away. The 5 of them were gathered at the place where Zhao Doran's divine sense had been sensed by Lu Ping. Chapter 1350. The 5 great cultivators were led by the cultivator surnamed Gu and another great cultivator from Wuxing School. In front of the cultivator surnamed Gu, there was a spirit treasure in the shape of a wine cauldron. It looked very similar to the Qingkuan wine cauldron, one of the 6 great artifacts of heaven and earth that Lu Ping had seen in Luo Xian Mountain. Just like the Linglong wine cauldron, it was also a spirit treasure imitation of the Qingkuan wine cauldron. Lu Ping's divine will descended into the core space. He looked at the Dharma form of the dragon that was playing happily in the floating sea formed by the triple light divine water. Then, he asked the Linglong wine cauldron, Linglong, do you know what the people from Wuxing School are doing? Through Lu Ping's divine will, Linglong wine cauldron had already sensed the movements of the 5 great cultivators a few miles away. It said, they seemed to be looking for something through that spirit treasure. Lu Ping was taken aback. He said, the Tao altar world is a rare land of fortune. Even without the 7th ancestor's guidance, the rich spiritual energy here, as well as the dual pressure from the body and divine sense, is a wonderful place for cultivators to quickly improve their cultivation base. But these 5 great cultivators didn't seize the opportunity to cultivate, but were instead looking for something. That means it must be something extraordinary. Lu Ping asked the Linglong wine cauldron, "The spirit treasure imitation of the Qingkuan wine cauldron has a treasure hunting function?" Linglong said, "It depends on what they're looking for. If it's a spirit vein, I have a certain detection ability." Hey, wait, they seem to have found something. Lu Ping held his breath and focused his divine will on the 5 people. Suddenly, he heard the cultivator surnamed Gu say happily, "Found it. It's here. Hurry up and dig." Lu Ping was shocked and thought, "Oh no, could it be that they are also looking for the sound-crushed stone and have mastered the method to find it? I hope it's not the one that was passed down to me for a year." But at this moment, the few great cultivators were acting like commoners. They took out a few hoes from their storage mystic instruments and started digging into the ground under Lu Ping's dumbfounded gaze. After a while, they put away their hoes as if they were about to find the target and were afraid of damaging it. Then, they heard the cultivator surnamed Gu let out a joyful laugh, followed by a stone futon about 1 meter in size being lifted out of the pit. Lu Ping looked at the joyful cultivator surnamed Gu in surprise and doubt. It was a white marble futon, which had been found by many cultivators who had entered the world of the Tao altar over the past thousands of years. Although it could barely be considered a treasure, it had the magical effect of absorbing spirit veins in the world of the Tao altar. Outside the world of the Tao altar, it was at most a good futon for cultivation. Therefore, after discovering that it was not very useful outside the world of the Tao altar, many people basically did not bring it out of the world of the Tao altar. At least for 3 years in the world of the Tao altar, it could absorb a spirit vein and provide help to the next cultivator who entered the world of the Tao altar. Some sects would even ask cultivators to bring the white marble futon back to a fixed and secret place before entering the world of the Tao altar so that the next cultivator could continue to use it for cultivation. At this time, the Wuxing school was obviously not looking for a white marble futon for cultivation. The moment the cultivator raised the futon, because it lost contact with the ground, the spirit vein beneath it naturally severed and sealed itself. Then why were they looking for these white marble futons? Lu Ping touched the storage magic tool in his hand. He was lucky enough to find a white marble futon not long after entering the world of the Tao altar, but he still had doubts in his heart. It couldn't be that they were collecting antiques, right? Looking at the happy expressions of the 2 great cultivators of the 5 elements when they found the futon, he wondered if there was a secret hidden in these white marble futons that only the Wuxing school knew. "Junior brother Shoheng, how many white marble cattail hassock have you found?" The cultivator surnamed Gu casually asked the other great cultivator of the 5 elements, sect, as he placed the prayer mat he found into his storage treasure. "Senior brother, this is the 3rd one." The great cultivator surnamed Gu put the imitation spiritual treasure in his hand and said with some regret, "It's a pity that this spiritual treasure will be ruined after 2 more uses." The great cultivator of the Wuxing school named Shoheng smiled and said, "It's all worth it, isn't it, senior brother?" The great cultivator surnamed Gu laughed and said, "Of course it is. As long as we can succeed, it's nothing to ruin a first-stage spiritual treasure." Laozu Shoheng smiled and said, "Although we can still explore it twice, we'd better be careful. According to the information we collected, when the demon clans in the Boundless Mountain opened the world of the Tao altar more than 100 years ago, someone once found a white marble futon in the north of the world of the Tao altar, which is about 50 kilometers away from the ruins of the Tao altar." The great cultivator surnamed Gu said, "This distance is within the range of the great cultivators of the various sections. Let's hope we don't run into any idiots. Otherwise, although we can't kill people here, it won't be difficult for the 5 of us to capture or expel them alive." Laozu Shoheng nodded and said, "There are only 3 places that might have futons. Let's hope we're lucky enough to find a futon without using the spiritual treasure. That way, we can at least save 1 more search opportunity. If we can't find it in the 3 places, we'll lose the last 2 chances of using the spiritual treasure, and we'll have to look for a needle in a haystack in the world of the Tao altar." A trace of worry flashed across the great cultivator's face, and then he said fiercely, if we're really unlucky, we might have to take the risk. The other great sects have hidden futons in the world of the Tao altar before, and they might even have one on them. When the time comes, we can just capture one or two of them and interrogate them. As soon as the great cultivator's voice fell, the other three great cultivators revealed bitter expressions. The great cultivator looked at the three of them with a mocking expression and said, "What, are you afraid?" The three great cultivators were silent, but in the end, they were all existences of the same level. Although they couldn't turn hostile to the two in front of them, their expressions didn't look good either. The great cultivator laughed and said, "Don't worry, although we can't kill people in the Tao altar, it won't be difficult to capture someone and cripple them. If we turn someone into an idiot, who will know it was us?" The three of them heaved a sigh of relief. As for whether someone would run away and reveal their plot, the three of them obviously didn't think that way. What a joke. When the five great cultivators joined forces, they were almost invincible in the world of the Tao altar. Who could run away when the five of them joined forces? Guarding Laozu also said with a smile, "This is our last resort." At this moment, Patriarch Shoheng smiled and said, "This is our last resort. Perhaps we will be able to collect enough praying mats in the remaining 3 locations. We only need 5, and the more we have, the better. However, we can't use them right now. Don't worry, after this, our sect will definitely compensate your sections." Our 5-element sect sent over a dozen core forging cultivators into the 3 secret realms. Apart from handing over 2/3 of the cultivation resources they brought out as a reward to the sects, the remaining 1/3 can be taken by the 3 of you. Our 5-element sect doesn't really care about these things, but it will be quite a bit of income for the 3 of you. It will be enough for your sects to nurture tins of core forging cultivators. Hearing this, the 3 great cultivators showed a hint of joy on their faces. Obviously, they were looking forward to this batch of cultivation resources. They didn't even hesitate to waste their precious cultivation time in the world of the Tao altar to help Wuxing School find white marble cattail hassocks. At this time, the great cultivator Gu seemed to think of something and said in a deep voice, "But just now, the 5 of us are enough to capture any cultivator in the world of the Tao altar alive, which reminds me that there are quite a few enemies of our sects in the world of the Tao altar. For example, fellow Taoist Wujia's old enemy, the Tianxian sect, and several people from the cultivation world of Hebei, where fellow Taoist Spirit Void is from, have also entered the world of the Tao altar. If the spiritual martial sect wants to become a large sect in Hebei, I'm afraid these people are a big eyesore, right?" Another example is fellow Taoist Yuntian's Feiyun Pavilion. I heard that recently, several sects have joined forces and exerted a lot of pressure. In that case, why don't we join forces and cripple a few eyesores? When the time comes, no one will know. Wouldn't that be great? This suggestion caused the other 3 great cultivators to be rather moved. However, one of them still said, "This Tao altar world isn't large, yet it isn't small either. It's probably not easy to intentionally find a few enemies. At that time, if the 5 of us act together, it would instead arouse suspicion." Guardian Laozu smiled and said, "Fellow Taoist Wujia is right, so we don't have to look for them, but if we meet them, they can only blame themselves for being unlucky." At this moment, the great cultivator of the spiritual martial sect, Lingshu Laozu, who Lu Ping had seen before, suddenly smiled, as if he had thought of something. When Lu Ping saw this person smile from afar, his heart skipped a beat, and he suddenly had a bad feeling. Sure enough, Lingshu Laozu smiled and said, "Since the 2 of you have mentioned it, I have seen a cultivator a few days ago. I think the 2 of you must be very interested in this person." Great cultivator Gu looked at Lingshu Laozu in surprise and said, "Who is it?" Lingshu Laozu paused, then slowly opened his mouth and said, "It is this time's mid-Dharma stage battle merit list, the North Sea water sword deity Lu Tianping." Damn it! Lu Ping gritted his teeth and cursed in a low voice, "If there's a chance, I'll cripple you first, you old thing." Lu Tianping. The one who gritted his teeth before the 2 great cultivators of Wuxing School was Wujia Laozu of the Taishan sect. He said word by word, 2 great cultivators of our sect died because of him. Where is this person now? Chapter 1351. The 5 great practitioners present belonged to 4 sects, but 3 of them had deep enmity with Lu Ping. This also made Lu Ping secretly think that his ability to attract hatred seemed to be growing. However, he also became more vigilant in his heart. He had offended these people, and they could be said to be extraordinary in the world of practitioners. As his reputation and status rose, his every move was bound to attract more and more attention, and it would be more and more difficult to think of doing things in the dark like before. However, the development of Junling also inevitably required Lu Ping to stand in front of the stage more and more, and at this time, the hidden arrows that came from behind Lu Ping had no choice but to divert 120% of his attention to deal with. As soon as Wu Jielaozu of Taishian's sect finished speaking, the great practitioner surnamed Gu of Wuxing School had already followed up with a solemn expression and said, "Fellow Taoist Lingshu, are you sure you are not mistaken? 2 of my sect's direct disciples perished at the hands of this person. If it really is this person, this old man will definitely make him beg for death." Lingshu Laozu also looked solemn and said, "No, this person is now also an influential figure in the world of practitioners. The old man will definitely not be mistaken." However, the old man met him a few days ago. At that time, Lu Tianping was walking towards the depths of the ruins of the Taoist altar. It is hard to say whether he is still there or not. Shoheng Laozu thought for a moment and said, "He should still be there. This person should be like the other 3 direct disciples." This time, he entered the Taoist altar mainly to prepare for the late Dharma stage. At this time, he should be going to the area near the world of the Taoist altar to find a place to train. The great practitioner surnamed Gu waved his hand and said, "Then what are we waiting for? The shortcut to the area of the white marble futon we are looking for next requires us to cross the ruins of the Taoist altar. Along the way, we will search for the whereabouts of this person. If we find him, we will work together to capture him." The great practitioner surnamed Gu could not help but think of the experience of Lu Ping successfully escaping from the joint attack of him and another great practitioner. That tyrannical impact, until now, made the great practitioner surnamed Gu feel extremely fearful when facing him alone. Even after he expressed his intention to join forces to besiege him, no one showed a strange expression. The 5 people only rested here for a moment before leaving, and the direction they left was the direction that Lingshu Laozu had pointed to where Lu Ping was. After waiting until the 5 people were out of the range of Lu Ping's divine thought, another 2 to 4 hours passed before Lu Ping carefully revealed himself and then quickly ran towards the pit that the group had previously dug. This time, Lu Ping had learned his lesson. He stood on the edge of the pit and used the cloud sail to cover a radius of 300 feet. Then, he only emitted the aura of the Dharma power of the dragon and combined it with his divine thought to capture the thought that had previously advised Lu Ping to practice the triple light sacred water. The entire Tao altar world was still filled with chaotic buzzing sounds, but no clear words could be heard from these noises. However, Lu Ping's divine thought still captured a sound that seemed to be slightly louder from these noises. The subtle difference in this sound was quickly identified by Lu Ping as the previous thought of Zhao Daoren. Lu Ping stretched out his hand and pointed to a spot 3 feet away from the pit. A clump of soil and stones exploded, and a stone similar to the sound-breaking stone that Lu Ping had previously obtained floated out of the exploded soil and stones. Lu Ping was overjoyed. He stretched out his hand, and another sound-breaking stone fell into his hand. This was a stone that recorded Zhao Daoren's thought. If he brought it out, he could give an explanation to Longhuai ancestor. However, at the thought of suppressing and erasing Zhao Daoren's thought in this stone, Lu Ping was a little uncertain. Previously, Lu Ping was able to erase Taoist Chan's thought by relying on the Dharma form of the dragon and the triple light sacred water, which he had cultivated under the guidance of Zhao Daoren's thought. However, now that he was facing Zhao Daoren's thought, it was difficult for Lu Ping to use the method Zhao Daoren had taught him to deal with Zhao Daoren's thought. Lu Ping took 2 deep breaths and thought to himself, "I will pass on the inheritance of the 7-colored restriction-breaking talisman and the 3 methods of drawing it. I will also pass on the soaring dragon galaxy technique and the condensation of the triple light sacred water." After all, the thought left in the God's stone no longer belongs to the 7th patriarch of the heavens-splitting sect. If I erase it, it would be disrespectful to all of you. Lu Ping's thought left his body with the Dharma form again. The jade phosphorus soul fire was already burning and jumping in the mouth of the Dharma form of the dragon. The triple light sacred water was also condensed in the body of the Dharma form of the Dharma form. All that was left was to use all his means to erase Zhao Doran's thought in the stone. However, just as Lu Ping added all his means to the stone, the thought of Zhao Doran hidden in the god's stone suddenly disappeared inexplicably. This feeling was as if Lu Ping had punched the air with all his strength. It made him feel terrible. Lu Ping was surprised. Then, he suddenly thought of something. His thought and Dharma form returned to his body. He then realized that there was an extremely familiar thought in Lu Ping's heart space. This was the remnant thought of Zhao Daoran, who had taught Lu Ping the condensation method of the triple light sacred water. Lu Ping was still puzzled. Could it be that all the sound stones that contained Zhao Doran's thoughts were not obstructed by Lu Ping, who had cultivated the soaring dragon galaxy technique? If that was the case, didn't it mean that as long as Lu Ping focused on collecting the sound stones that contained Zhao Doran's thoughts in the Tao altar world, he would be able to obtain the mantra inheritance left behind by Zhao Daoran as he pleased? This speculation was really tempting to Lu Ping. Although Lu Ping felt that it might be due to luck or other reasons, once this thought took root in Lu Ping's mind, it was difficult for Lu Ping to get rid of it. Perhaps he should find some sound stones that contained Zhao Doran's thoughts and try it out. What if it was true? This thought kept popping up in Lu Ping's mind, but Lu Ping eventually suppressed it. At this moment, there were already 5 great cultivators seeking revenge on him in the Tao altar world. He did not think that he had the strength to fight against 5 of them, so it was better to avoid them at this time. The most important thing now was to take advantage of the special environment of the Tao altar world to improve his cultivation. There was a water vein sealed around Lu Ping, and with the regulation of the Linglong wine cauldron, he could transform it into a steady stream of pure water spirit qi. He did not rely too much on the rich spirit qi in the Tao altar world. However, the dual pressure from the spirit qi in the minor kiliacosm was a rare opportunity for Lu Ping. However, the pressure from his current position was not very helpful to Lu Ping. It was better for Lu Ping to continue deeper into the Tao altar world and cultivate near the Tao altar ruins. After some thought, Lu Ping turned around and chased after the 5 great cultivators. He followed them from afar. The 5 of them were obviously looking for him. They probably did not expect him to be behind them. For hours later, Lu Ping returned to the place where he suppressed the first soundstone. Someone had obviously come here to investigate, but they did not find anything in the end. The 5 great cultivators did not find him here, so they must have gone to look for other white jade futons. Although Lu Ping wanted to know why Wuxing School was looking for these white jade futons, it was obvious that he would be walking into a tiger's den if he wanted to face the 5 great cultivators. Therefore, Lu Ping had to suppress this thought. This place had been checked by the cultivators of Wuxing School. After all, he could not dig 3 feet into the ground of the Taoist altar to find it. Chapter 1352. Lu Ping naturally did not know what kind of turmoil his mischievous behavior had brought to the world of the Wei altar. At this time, he was quietly training in the training area that he had occupied. Lu Ping circulated the soaring dragon galaxy art and refined the pure water spiritual energy into his body to improve his cultivation base. More than half a year had passed, and Lu Ping finally felt the long-awaited thrill of his cultivation base growing by leaps and bounds. It was as if his cultivation base was growing by leaps and bounds. Half a year had passed, and Lu Ping finally felt the long-awaited thrill of his cultivation base growing by leaps and bounds. The water vein that was sealed in the Linglong wine cauldron was much stronger than the small vein that Zhang Tianlin had prepared to bring back to the North Sea. Even so, this half a year's time was enough for Lu Ping's level of practice to reach the peak of the mid-Dharma stage. He was only 1 step away from advancing to the late Dharma stage. Everything was ready except for the last step. But the half of the vein that had been sealed in the Linglong wine cauldron by Lu Ping had dissipated a lot during his training, but there was still more than half of it left. In the world of practice, to directly use a water vein as one's training object was probably something that only Lu Ping could do. Using such an extreme method to train, it was only natural that his level of practice had reached his current level in just over half a year. At this time, Lu Ping's level of practice was already at the peak of the mid-Dharma stage, and after repeated training, Lu Ping even had a feeling that as long as he slightly activated the inner yuan in his body, his divine will would be able to sense that the sky above his head was about to form a thundercloud. This feeling was, of course, not real, but it could also mean that at this time, Lu Ping's level of practice was almost at the peak of the mid-Dharma stage. Other than passing through the second thunder tribulation, there was probably no other way for him to greatly increase his level of practice. In fact, during his closed-door cultivation, Lu Ping had indeed sensed traces of thunder tribulation chi gathering above his head. It was precisely because he sensed the changes in the void above his head that he decisively stopped his cultivation and woke up from his closed-door cultivation. After all, this spirit space was not the world of training that Lu Ping was in, and it was not a real world either. It was just a space created by the seventh patriarch, who had opened up the sky, using a secret technique. Not to mention the fact that this spirit space could withstand the power of Lu Ping's thunder calamity. Even if it could summon the thunder calamity, the power of the thunder calamity would be greatly reduced. In this way, the chances of surviving the thunder calamity would be higher, but after reaching the late Dharma stage, his power would also be greatly reduced. Think about it. When a practitioner welcomed the second thunder tribulation full of hope, but suddenly discovered that the power of the thunder tribulation was actually not as strong as the first thunder tribulation when he had advanced to the mid-Dharma stage. After passing through the second thunder tribulation, he discovered that although he had become a great late Dharma adept, his power was not even comparable to that of a mid-Dharma adept. This practitioner might even want to die. Lu Ping circulated the inner yuan in his body and used his divine will to constantly feel the changes in the circulation of the inner yuan in his blood. Of course, during this process, he did not absorb any spirit qi into his inner yuan. Accompanied by the roar of his heart that sounded like a drum, the inner yuan in his blood surged like a river in his veins. When Lu Ping used the soaring dragon galaxy technique with all his might, he could even faintly hear the sound of the surging river a few dozen feet away from him. If it were anyone else, they might even suspect that there was a river passing by nearby. Lu Ping looked up at the starry sky. Although he could see some stars in the world that he was in, it was not like the world in the Tao altar, where he could see a sky full of stars and the Milky Way that stretched across the sky. Some practitioners had long speculated that after the seventh patriarch opened up this world, he had used his remarkable powers to conceal the existence of this world. Therefore, when practitioners looked up at the starry sky at night in this world, they could only vaguely see sparse stars. On the other hand, the Tao altar world was a minor kiliacosm attached to the surface of this world, so it wasn't affected by the seventh ancestor's ability to conceal this world. As a result, any cultivator who entered the minor kiliacosm would be able to see more, brighter, and denser galaxies, in addition to a few scattered stars that were often seen in the cultivation world. The Tao altar world was a minor kiliacosm that was attached to the surface of this world and was not affected by the remarkable powers that the seventh patriarch had used to conceal this world. Therefore, when practitioners entered the minor kiliacosm, they could see more, brighter, and denser galaxies, in addition to a few sparse stars that were often seen in the cultivation world. However, when his cultivation method changed to the soaring dragon galaxy technique, all of Lu Ping's pride and confidence had been extinguished by himself. No matter how strong the inner yuan in one's body was, no matter how thick it was, at most, it was just a raging river. How could it compare to the vast ocean? How could it compare to the Milky Way that stretched across the sky? Everything that had happened before was just him being arrogant. How could the soaring dragon galaxy technique be so superficial? A true divine dragon could only move freely in the vast universe and the endless Milky Way. The one who was truly superficial was still Lu Ping himself. At the Dharma phase, the amount of inner yuan that he could accumulate was at most a river. So what if he became a true soul? At most, it would only be an ocean. To truly achieve the soaring dragon galaxy, did it mean that becoming a true soul was the only thing that could be done? For the first time, Lu Ping had doubts about the cultivation method that he had cultivated. He did not doubt its authenticity, but he suspected that the cultivation method that he had obtained so far might not be the complete one. Although the Soaring Dragon Galaxy technique that Lu Ping had was one of Jiao Doran's 7 true techniques, it was only for Lu Ping to cultivate until he achieved the realm of a divine soul. A divine soul might be able to break free from the shackles of this world, but it was nothing in the face of the boundless starry sky. To truly be able to move freely in this endless starry sky and live up to the name Soaring Dragon Galaxy technique, there must be a continuation of this cultivation method after achieving the divine soul. However, Lu Ping had no way to verify this speculation. Perhaps the 7th patriarch of Kai Tian Kai knew about it, or perhaps Jiao Daoran still had the continuation of the Soaring Dragon Galaxy technique after achieving the divine soul. However, the 7th patriarch of Kai Tian Kai had only left this world a legend from tens of thousands of years ago, so Lu Ping could only sigh helplessly. After cultivating for more than half a year, in addition to the rapid growth of his cultivation, Lu Ping had condensed another 9 drops of triple light sacred water in his core space, forming an even larger floating sea. This opened up a new place for the Dharma power of dragon to play in. He no longer had to chase after the pure young pearl in his core space. In the process of continuously condensing the triple light sacred water, Lu Ping gradually discovered the many wonderful uses of this item. However, after condensing 12 drops of triple light sacred water, no matter how hard Lu Ping tried to cultivate the triple light sacred water from Jiao Doran's will, he could no longer condense another drop of triple light sacred water. Chapter 1353. There were only 2 months left before the closing of the Tao Altar World. Lu Ping had been fortunate enough to capture 3 clear thoughts of splitting the heavens during the past 6 months of cultivation. Compared to the 3 thoughts of splitting the heavens that Lu Ping had captured in just a few days after entering the Tao Altar World, Lu Ping's luck was clearly much worse. Perhaps it was because Lu Ping was too focused on cultivation and spent most of his divine thoughts helping to sort out his blood and qi, so he might have inadvertently missed many opportunities. Moreover, the 3 thoughts of splitting the heavens that Lu Ping had captured did not seem to have much enlightenment for Lu Ping. Compared to the 3 thoughts of splitting the heavens that he had captured before, the difference was like heaven and earth. One of the 3 thoughts was the voice of a female cultivator. She spoke a few words about the cultivation of spirit herbs. It seemed that it came from the stone chime that the Luan Taoist was sitting on. Although Lu Ping had some expertise in the cultivation of spirit herbs, he could not comprehend anything from these simple words. It was a pity that the few Dharma manifestation stage wood phoenixes that Lu Ping had recently received could not enter the Tao Altar World. Otherwise, if they had heard the words of the Luan Taoist, they might have immediately regarded them as treasures. Moreover, their cultivation of spirit herbs would immediately usher in leaps and bounds. However, Lu Ping still memorized the few words of the Luan Taoist. Without the Luan Taoist's original explanation, it would have lacked that kind of sudden enlightenment. When the time came, he would give these words to the wood phoenixes to comprehend on their own. He did not know how much of the essence they would be able to figure out. The other thought of splitting the heavens that Lu Ping had captured should have come from Ape Taoist. The voice spoke very quickly and seemed to be a little impatient. Perhaps it was because the cultivators listening to him could not understand his method of speech, so he had to explain with a trace of impatience. Well, these words should be explaining the cultivation secrets of a type of staff technique. Moreover, many of these secrets do not correspond to the type of staff technique explained by Ape Taoist. Instead, they seem to be common to most staff techniques. Naturally, Lu Ping wasn't proficient in staff techniques. This kind of technique had almost become the symbol of the Wise Ape clan. If these words were given to the Wise Ape clan, they would probably be treasured and kept as an important heritage of the clan. Lu Ping had some friendship with the 3rd-generation Yao cultivator of the Wise Apes, Yuan Long. The two had discussed methods together for many days and were quite impressed by each other's cultivation achievements. Most of Lu Ping's dabbling in staff techniques came from that time. If he could give these words of Ape Taoist to Yuan Long in the future, he would definitely earn a big favor from the boy. The third thought that Lu Ping had captured was more or less useful to Lu Ping. This should have come from ape Taoist divine sense. It was actually talking about the extremely rare technique of alchemy, the external pill transformation. Although this pill externalization technique was rooted in the absolute proficiency of an alchemist in the refining process of a certain kind of elixir, the occurrence of this phenomenon was mostly related to luck. Even most alchemists who mastered a certain kind of elixir externalization secret technique didn't know the reason for mastering this elixir secret technique. Therefore, whenever an alchemist accidentally grasped the technique of forming a pill outside of a pill while refining a certain pill, it would be known as the alchemist's fortune, and this pill would also be known as the alchemist's fortune pill. Speaking of which, Lu Ping himself had mastered the external pill transformation technique. Not long after Lu Ping had become an alchemy grandmaster, he had unintentionally refined 12 blood-condensing pills while demonstrating alchemy to the disciples of Jinling Side Hall. Thus, the blood-condensing pills became Lu Ping's fortune pill. As a direct result of this incident, half of Jinling's blood-condensing pill refining task fell on Lu Ping's shoulders. Even after Lu Ping had become a grandmaster alchemist and become one of the best alchemists in the cultivation world, Fornax Laozu still did not lower the responsibility of Lu Ping's blood-condensing pill refining task. However, Taoist Gui's spiritual power didn't explain the reason for this phenomenon. Instead, he listed the names of the 13 types of natural spirit fires in an uncertain tone. He then said that alchemists who used the 13 types of natural spirit fires seemed to be more likely to have this phenomenon in the process of pill concoction, but the probability of this phenomenon was only slightly higher. Other types of natural spirit fires might also have this phenomenon, but compared with the 13 types of natural spirit fires, the probability of this phenomenon was slightly lower. Lu Ping memorized the names of these 13 types of natural fires. Among them, only one was of the black grade, which was none other than the blue spirit fire, the high-grade black grade fire that Lu Ping had used before. Back then, when Lu Ping concocted the blood-condensing pill, he had used the blue spirit fire. When he saw the blue spirit fire, Lu Ping, who had been skeptical before, instantly believed Taoist Gui's speculation. He promised himself that when he returned to the sect, he would definitely ask the pill pavilion to collect as many natural fires as possible according to these 13 types of natural fires as possible. These 13 types of natural fires were all suitable for refining pills. Therefore, even if Taoist Gui's speculation was wrong, Jihao wouldn't lose anything. However, once his speculation was correct, Jinling would have a few more alchemists who had mastered the external pill transformation technique. Over time, Jinling would be able to save a considerable amount of cultivation resources. Among the 13 types of natural fires, except for the blue spirit fire, which was of the black grade, among the other 12 types of natural fires, 6 were of the earth grade, 1 was of the low grade, 3 were of the earth grade, and 2 were of the earth grade. Unfortunately, Lu Ping had only heard of these 6 types of natural fires. 5 were of the heaven grade, 2 were of the low grade, 1 was of the heaven grade, and 2 were of the heaven grade. Unfortunately, Lu Ping had never owned any of these 5 types of natural fires. Apart from the blue spirit fire, there was also a special type of natural fire. This type of fire could grow by devouring other types of natural fires, and as its grade increased, the flame of this type of fire would grow larger as well. With every grade, the flame would grow larger by 1 inch, which was why this type of fire was called the few inches spirit fire. This strange fire was none other than the exotic fire in Lu Ping's hand. When Lu Ping caught this fire when it first appeared on Scarlet Mist Island, it was only a 4-inch flame of the earth grade. Later, after devouring several types of natural fires, it had grown into a 6-inch flame of the earth grade, the high grade. He didn't expect that this type of fire could easily transform pills into pills in the process of alchemy, and Taoist Gui emphasized that this type of fire had the highest possibility of transforming pills into pills. Back then, Taoist Gui had cultivated a 1-inch flame of the heaven grade, the 9 inches spirit fire into the high grade, the heaven grade. During the process of this spirit fire's growth, Taoist Gui often used this spirit fire to refine pills. In the end, Taoist Gui alone mastered the external pill transformation technique for 7 types of pills. Lu Ping's heart was burning with excitement. All along, Lu Ping knew that this type of spirit fire had a very high success rate in concocting medicinal pellets of the same grade as the other spirit flames. But Lu Ping was reluctant to feed the spirit fire to the spirit fire to improve its grade. Also, Lu Ping had the silver spirit fire that had a very high success rate in concocting medicinal pellets. Hence, he only nurtured the spirit fire to the earth-grade high-grade 6-inch spirit fire. But now, it seemed that compared to the external pill transformation pill that appeared on several kinds of high-grade spirit pills, losing a few decent heaven and earth spirit fires to increase its grade didn't seem so painful. After sorting out what he had gained from this round of closed-door training, Lu Ping spread his divine will out in all directions to see if anyone was hiding. Only then did he realize that the past 6 months of training had increased Lu Ping's divine will once again. His divine will could now cover a radius of 13 miles. This place was already deep in the area where late Dharma adepts could descend. The divine will of adepts had been compressed to 1/10 of its original strength, which meant that under normal circumstances, Lu Ping's divine will could cover a radius of 30 miles. When Lu Ping had entered the world of the Tao altar, he had been guided by Jiao Doran's will. His divine will had achieved a breakthrough and increased to 60 miles in one go. He had originally thought that this would be a bottleneck, but he didn't expect that after 6 months of closed-door training, his divine will had once again expanded to 10 miles. The auspicious clouds that covered a radius of a mile all converged into a small flag in Lu Ping's hand. Then, circles of white spirit light appeared on the ground and shrank toward the center. Finally, under Lu Ping's feet, it formed a white jade lotus the size of a wash basin and disappeared into Lu Ping's core space. Lu Ping smiled at a pile of dirt on the left and said, "Junior brotherine, your secret technique of concealment has improved greatly again." Behind a 3-foot-tall mound about 50 to 60 feet away, Yin Tianchu's figure gradually appeared. His expression was very ugly as he said, "Senior brother, please don't make fun of me. Just like last time, you saw through me with just one look." Lu Ping shook his head and said, "If it was before we entered the Tao altar's world, it would have been extremely difficult for junior martial brother Yin to discover your presence with your current art of concealment. But after half a year in the Tao altar's world, junior martial brother Yin, although you've improved tremendously, my divine sense has also experienced a breakthrough. Hence, I can see through your art of concealment again." Yin Tianchu nodded, and his expression became a little better. Lu Ping could see that Yin Tianchu had not only made great progress in his secret technique of concealment, but also that his aura, which was unstable because he had just broken through to the mid-Dharma stage not long ago, had been stabilized after more than half a year of hard work. Furthermore, his cultivation had also improved significantly. It seemed that he had gained a lot in the world of the Tao altar. "Did you receive the message I sent before I went into seclusion? How are Uncle Tianqing and the other 2 early Dharma adepts?" Although the news of the 5 great adepts joining forces to seek revenge in the world of the Tao altar had been spread randomly by Lu Ping using 30 to 40 different communication tools, Lu Ping had specially sent Yin Tianchu and the other Zhenling adepts a few secret talismans from his sect, informing them of the cause of the matter. This was to prevent the 5 great adepts from venting their anger on the other adepts of the sect if they could not find him. Chapter 1354. Lu Ping had used the sect's secret talismans to inform a few of the sect's cultivators about this matter. Even his best friends, Xie Tianyang, Sang Yu, and the others, did not use the talismans to inform them. Firstly, the 5 people might not rush to find trouble with them. Secondly, Lu Ping really did not want too many people to know that he was the one who discovered the secret alliance of the 5 people. However, Lu Ping did not know that the 30 to 40 talismans he had randomly distributed had very quickly caused an uproar in the world of the Taoist altar. There were only a total of 150 cultivators in the world of the Taoist altar, and among them, there were only 50 late Dharma great cultivators. There was no need for Lu Ping to explain what it meant for the 5 great cultivators to join forces to seek revenge. Even if some people suspected that someone was secretly spreading rumors, most people who were lucky enough to be notified by Lu Ping's talismans would rather believe that it was true than not. Even some cultivators who had nothing to do with these sects had no choice but to call their friends in the world of the Taoist altar and temporarily form a loose alliance just in case. This also caused the news of the 5 great cultivators joining forces to spread further and further in the world of the Taoist altar. In fact, just as Lu Ping had scattered the talismans, the 5 people had just used the spirit treasure on the other side of the ruins of the Taoist altar with Lu Ping. Under the surprised gaze of great cultivator surnamed Gu, they had once again obtained a white marble cattail hassock. This is already the 4th one. As long as we find one more, it will be a success. Yuntian Laozu of the Flowing Cloud Pavilion finally could not help but ask, "My friend Shouhong, what is the purpose of your sect collecting these white marble cattails?" Shouhong Laozu's expression was a little awkward. Yuntian Laozu saw this and hurriedly laughed, saying, "I have no intention of exploring the secrets of your sect's inheritance. If you find it difficult, please don't say it." Guardian Laozu was about to thank Yuntian Laozu for his understanding, but his senior brother Guda was clearly rather excited because he was about to succeed. He said, "It's actually not a secret, so it's fine if I tell you." Shou Laozu wanted to say something to stop them. However, after considering it for a moment, he decided against it in the end. The great cultivator surnamed Gu, who was standing beside him, said, "Although the 6 great Holy Lands have never acknowledged it, the legacy of pure young cultivators from the 6 great Holy Lands has never been severed since the opening of the heavens. The world of cultivation has long since speculated that the 6 great Holy Lands possess some method to strengthen their cultivators' ability to overcome the 3rd lightning tribulation. That is why they are able to ensure the number of pure young cultivators in every generation." Looking at Yuntian Laozu's group of 3, Cultivator Gu smiled proudly and said, "You guessed correctly. Although this method isn't as miraculous as you think, the 6 Holy Lands do have such a shortcut." Spirit Void Laozu swallowed and pointed at the white jade cattail hassock in Cultivator Guda's hand, saying, "So, this white jade cattail hassock." "Hee, that's right." Cultivator Guda smiled proudly and said, "This white jade cattail hassock is a part of the inheritance method that our sect has mastered, and this method is only available in our Wuxing school. If it were any other sect, even if we told them the whole method, they wouldn't be able to succeed." Why? Spirit Void Laozu stared straight at Cultivator Guda and asked, "Ha, because of the cauldron of heaven and earth." Cultivator Guda laughed and said, "Only the cauldron of heaven and earth can do this." Although Spirit Void and the other 2 had already guessed the result, they could not help but feel discouraged when they learned the real reason. At the same time, they looked as if they had suddenly realized something. The cauldron of heaven and earth. No wonder. At this time, Cultivator Gu seemed to be more and more complacent. He then asked, "Do you know the origin of these white jade cattail hassock?" Wujia Laozu of the Taishan sect thought of something and said, "Could it be that the origin of these white jade cattail hassock has something to do with the cauldron of heaven and earth? No, with Taoist ape?" Cultivator Guda glanced at Wujia Laozu and nodded with a smile. "Exactly. In the cultivation world, it is said that the Tao of formations was passed down to Jiao Daoren, but it is not certain that the 7th Patriarch of Heaven Splitter did not have others who know about other Tao formations. Perhaps they were not as proficient as Jiao Daoren, but the spirit-guiding formation left behind by Taoist ape is clearly different from the Tao formation inheritance system in the cultivation world. This is also the reason why white jade cattail hassock has appeared in the cultivation world long ago, but no formation grandmaster has been able to replicate it." Everyone suddenly understood. Wujia Laozu looked at Cultivator Gu's proud expression and his heart thumped. He smiled and said, "In that case, I'm afraid I have to congratulate fellow Taoist Gu and fellow Taoist Shouhong. I'm afraid that not long after we leave the Tao altar world, we will hear about the 2 of you advancing to the pure young stage." Shouhong Laozu's face flashed with sadness, but he quickly hid it and said, "My cultivation is not as good as Brother Gu, so I am not qualified to receive this kind of inheritance." Shouhong Laozu saw that Cultivator Guda was talking excitedly and was afraid that he would reveal other secrets of the Wuxing school. Although these things could not be carried out without the cauldron of heaven and earth, it was not good to let outsiders know too much. So he said, "Fellow Taoist Lingxiu, didn't I hear that you found a great practitioner from the Qixia sect? The Qixia sect has always been against the spiritual force sect in the cultivation world of Hebei. This is our chance. Since the death of a great practitioner and several Dharma adepts in the Yingyu swamp more than 100 years ago, the spiritual force sect's vitality was greatly damaged, and the plan to advance to a large sect encountered a great setback. Fortunately, the spiritual force sect had a good foundation. Later, with the help of the Taishan sect and the Wuxing school, they quickly recovered. Soon, Lingshu Laozu advanced to the late Dharma stage, and the spiritual force sect regained the power of a quasi-large sect. However, over the years, in order to prevent the spiritual force sect from advancing to a large sect, the sects in the cultivation world of Hebei secretly formed alliances and constantly fought against the spiritual force sect. The Qixia sect was the leading sect among the sects of various sizes that had formed an alliance in secret, and the great cultivator ancestor Xiamengfu was the only great cultivator of the Qixia sect. Sure enough, Lingshu Laozu immediately stood up after hearing Shoheng Laozu's words and said, "I almost forgot something important. This Xiamengfu also found the old man at that time. Don't take the opportunity to escape." Shoheng Laozu smiled and said, "It's okay." At that time, Master Lingshu had already shown weakness and avoided the four of us. I think that Xiamengfu found a place to practice and is not willing to leave easily. We will go around from a distance and surround him from different directions. By the time he finds us, it will be too late. Lingshu Laozu's face turned red, and he coughed and said, "Great, let's do it. This time, let's see where this old thing can run to. We must make this person live." Under the joint attack of the 5 people, even though Xiamengfu Laozu was also a great practitioner at the late Dharma stage, he was still captured alive after being seriously injured. Then, Lingshu Laozu smashed the source of the Dharma with a smirk. Even though the 5 of them were all old demons who were used to killing, it was inevitable that they would be a little uneasy when they saw a cultivator of the same level end up like this. Erase his divine will. Shoheng Laozu turned around and walked out. Lingshu Laozu had already clenched his teeth and slapped Xiamengfu Laozu's head. Suddenly, he heard Shoheng Laozu exclaim in a low voice, "Oh no, someone is coming." Lingshu Laozu panicked, but he still shattered the captured person's divine will with one palm. Xiamengfu, whose face was full of resentment, suddenly became dumbfounded. "Let's go." The 5 dignified great practitioners quickly left like stray dogs. What the 5 of them didn't know was that just 2 hours later, another great cultivator from the Hebei cultivation world, who was also a great cultivator from the Qixia sect who had lost his soul force and his cultivation base, was still there. However, he had already lost his mind and found a few Dharma adepts who had gathered together because of Lu Ping's message charm. The old man went too late. Originally, I thought that Brother Xia, as a great practitioner, should be the safest among us, so the old man informed you in advance. But the old man never thought. A ferocious-looking mid-Dharma old man suddenly stood up and said, "Senior, is it really the 5 of them?" The great practitioner calmed down and said, "It should be right." In fact, the old man did not discover their identity. At that time, he only touched them with his divine will and they left in a panic. But there is no doubt that there are 5 of them. Think about it. Over the years, more than 10 sects of the Hebei world of practitioners, big and small, have joined forces to fight against the spiritual martial sect, and Brother Xia and the old man are the leaders. If you want to say who hates Brother Xia and the old man the most, it must be the people of the spiritual martial sect. The message talisman said that among the 5 of them is Ling Su of the spiritual martial sect, so it can't be wrong. They really dared to do such a thing in this Tao altar world. At the end of his speech, the great practitioner's face was full of anger. A dignified great practitioner had ended up in such a stupid state. At the very least, the Qixia sect would definitely decline in the future. The ferocious-looking old man from before said, "Despicable. Wuxing School, Taishan sect, and Feiyun Pavilion. Which one of them is not a famous sect in the world of practitioners? Even the spiritual martial sect is a quasi-large sect. I didn't expect them to be so despicable. No, I have to inform all the practitioners in the Tao altar world about this as soon as possible. If everyone joins forces, I don't believe that the 5 of them can overturn the sky." The old man's enraged words immediately caused the cultivators from Hub A to cheer loudly. The great cultivator who brought Xiaomengfu back pondered for a moment before saying, "That's the only way. We're no match for those 5 people." However, the message talisman that I intercepted back then was clearly deliberately leaked by someone. In that case, it's impossible for that person to only send out one message talisman. I presume that many people in the Tao altar have already learned of this matter by now. What we need to do is to bring fellow Taoists Xiao along and prove to everyone that the message talisman is absolutely true. Chapter 1355. So for the past 6 months, these 5 people have been very miserable? It was not easy for Yin Tianchu to recount everything that had happened in the Tao altar world for the past 6 months. After all, they are 5 great practitioners. Although the practitioners in the Tao altar world have joined forces, they have their own groups, selfish motives, and suspicions. It is not easy to completely destroy these 5 people. Moreover, after these 5 people realized that things were not going well, they did not dare to act alone. They hid again and again, focusing on escaping. No one can stop 5 late Dharma adepts. Lu Ping nodded. This Tao altar world was not small. If these 5 people had decided to escape, it would not be easy to catch up or kill them. That's right. The other disciples of these 4 sects who entered the Tao altar world are in trouble. Lu Ping was stunned. Only then did he realize that these 4 sects were not easy to deal with. These 5 great practitioners were not the only ones who could enter the Tao altar world. Wuxing School has 4 early and mid-Dharma adepts who entered the Tao altar world. 2 of them have already been destroyed. Only Huo Wuliang and Shui Jiro managed to escape and meet up with the other 5. I heard that 2 people from the Taishan sect have also been destroyed. They met Xiahou Wushang, and from his tone, it seems that he was soul-searched by Qingli Laozu. I don't know about the people from the Feiyun Pavilion, but I don't think they are any better. But this time, the spiritual martial sect only sent 2 early Dharma adepts, but they were captured by the angry practitioners of Hubei and chopped into human swine. Huh. Lu Ping's eyes widened. That's too much. Human swine. That was a form of torture where one's limbs were chopped off, eyes dug out, ears cut off, and tongue cut off. It was simply inhumane. Yin Tianchu's tone was still calm as he said, "I heard that it was done by the only early Dharma adept from the Qixia sect who entered the Tao altar world. Their own Laozu has been destroyed, and it is only a matter of time before the Qixia sect falls. If it were not for the fact that killing in the Tao altar world is equivalent to perishing together, he would have been killed long ago." Lu Ping didn't know what to say. After a while, he said, "By the way, where are Marshal Uncle Tianqing and the others now?" Yin Tianchu said, "He was with the cultivators of the Profound Sky sect." Since something like this happened, all the cultivators who entered the Tao altar world have gathered together. Cultivators and sects who are on good terms with each other have gathered again. Lu Ping nodded and felt relieved. But he still asked in surprise, "How did you find this place? Aren't you with Marshal Uncle Tianqing?" Yin Tianchu said, "I was also suspicious, but I've seen the cloud formed by your sail before. I heard that a great cultivator was openly setting up a formation here to cultivate in seclusion, so I came to take a look out of curiosity. I didn't think it would really be you here." Lu Ping knew that Yin Tianchu rarely liked crowds. Tianqing, Laozu, and the others were together with the cultivators of the Profound Sky sect. Yin Tianchu was naturally impatient, so he wandered around the Tao altar world alone. Lu Ping thought of something and asked, "By the way, did you find the Sound Stone and have the opportunity to inherit the will of the 7th Patriarch?" Yin Tianchu turned his wrist, and 2 Sound Stone stones and a jade scroll appeared in his hand. He said, "During the process of cultivation, I heard 3 phrases of the 7th Patriarch's will, but it was not very useful. It was not very compatible with my cultivation. I did get 2 Sound Stone stones, but the will of the 7th Patriarch contained in them is not something I can deal with. It's up to you." Oh, by the way, the Jade Scroll also recorded the contents of 4 mantras that Marshal Uncle Tianqing and the others obtained, as well as their respective understandings. Lu Ping took the 2 stones and threw a jade scroll to him. He said, I heard 5 mantras, see if they are useful to you. But like you, I only got 2 stones. In fact, Lu Ping had obtained 6 mantras, but the origin of the Soaring Dragon Galaxy technique was a little surprising. Moreover, when Lu Ping entered the Tao Altar world, Zhao Dorans will only said the words, Soaring Dragon Galaxy technique. Even if he told Jinling and the others, they would be confused, so it was better not to say it. 5 mantras? So many. Lu Ping did not know that 5 mantras could surprise Yin Tianchu so much, so he asked curiously, Many? Yin Tianchu rolled his eyes and said, I obtained 3 mantras, which made Martial Uncle Tianqing and the others, as well as the people from the Heavenly Mystic Sect and the Heavenly Moon Sect, envious. Martial Uncle Tianqing obtained 2 mantras, Senior Brother Lu and Lei Di each obtained 1 mantra, which made their trip worthwhile. The mantras of the 7th Patriarch have always been based on luck. It's good enough to obtain 1 or 2 mantras in a year. Even if you're unlucky, it's normal to not hear a single mantra. Among the cultivators from the 3 sects, apart from me, only Chao Jianping obtained 3 mantras. Oh, Lu Ping replied and nodded, not caring at all. Instead, he used his mind to probe the 2 sound-crushing stones that Yin Tianchu had given him. One of the 2 stones should have come from Taoist whose Tao altar, and the other must have come from Zhao Doran's Tao altar. When Lu Ping first got his hands on it, the familiar feeling was enough for him to confirm it. Seeing Lu Ping's calm expression, Yin Tianchu couldn't help but ask, Don't tell me you're able to suppress the thoughts in these stones. This is something that most great cultivators can't do. Out of the 3 sound-crushing stones that the Heavenly Xian sect obtained, only one of them was suppressed by Qingli Laozu and obtained the mantras recorded in it. He can't do anything about the other 2. As for the Heavenly Moon sect, 2 of the 4 stones were suppressed, and the 2 great cultivators from the Heavenly Moon sect can't do anything about the remaining 2. Suppressing the thoughts of the 7th Patriarch in the stones still depended on one's strength. However, in the situation where pure Yang cultivators couldn't enter the Tao altar, suppressing the thoughts in the stones could only depend on luck. Lu Ping said casually, I've already erased the thoughts in the 2 stones I obtained. Erased? Yin Tianchu couldn't remain calm again. Suppressing and erasing were 2 completely different concepts. As long as he was with this guy, he felt that his calm mind would always be disturbed by this guy. However, Yin Tianchu quickly became happy and said, suppressing the thoughts inside will allow us to obtain the mantras of the 7th Patriarch. If you can directly erase them, doesn't that mean that we can bring the 2 sound-crushing stones out? Lu Ping grunted and then asked, How many sound-crushing stones do Martial Uncle Tiancheng and the others have? Yin Tianchu said with some regret, Only Senior Lu picked up 1. The sound-crushing stones weren't that easy to find. Many of the stones were scattered in the Tao altar world, and some were even buried deep underground. Although the Tao altar world was only a small kiliacosm, it was still extremely vast. No one would dig 3 feet into the ground for the sound-crushing stones that couldn't be brought out of the Tao altar world. The 2 people from the Heavenly Profound sect talked as they walked. Unknowingly, the pressure around Yin Tianchu suddenly increased again. His divine thoughts were already compressed to 1/15 of what they were originally. Yin Tianchu then realized and said, Where are we going? Lu Ping didn't stop and said, Let's go to the Tao altar ruins to take a look. The reason why it was the majority was that there were still some gravel that was brought out. However, these gravel had a common characteristic. They did not contain the protective consciousness of the 7th Patriarch. Without the protective consciousness, the mantra of the 7th Patriarch would naturally dissipate, leaving only a few simple and plain mantras like jade slips. How useful would that be? As for the stone itself, although it was an extremely rare spiritual material in the world of cultivation, this spiritual material itself did not have much use. It was just rare. Even so, the cultivators who entered the world of the Tao altar world still tried to bring the stone out. Even if only the plain content of the 7th Patriarch's speech was left, it was still possible to make a set of inheritance out of it. Later on, Some cultivators discovered that as long as they suppressed and erased the protective will of the seventh patriarch within the space of the Tao altar, they would be able to bring the gravel out of the space. Although it would lack the artistic conception of the seventh patriarch's speech, they would still be able to bring out the contents of 2 or 3 mantras. However, these people were quickly disappointed. Most of the late Dharma adepts could not even suppress the protective consciousness of the seventh patriarch in the stone, let alone erase it. Even if there was a very lucky cultivator who obtained a stone with a weak protective consciousness, after he finally managed to erase the protective consciousness inside, he sadly discovered that he had accidentally erased the mantras recorded in the stone. Then, what was the use of this so-called divine stone? Was it to be used as an antique, or to be made into a jade scroll? Jade scrolls were like the paper that mortals used. Using the divine stone to make jade scrolls would at most raise the quality of toilet paper to that of rice paper. What was the point of that? Lu Ping looked at the 7 huge pits in front of him and laughed bitterly. There's really nothing to see here. Let's go. When Yin Tianchu saw Lu Ping closing his eyes, he sensed a majestic divine sense surging out from Lu Ping's body and spreading out in all directions. Then, Lu Ping suddenly changed directions. He couldn't help but ask, "Where are you going this time?" Lu Ping smiled and said, "You'll know when we get there." After leaving the 7 huge pits and walking east for 4 or 5 miles, Lu Ping mumbled to himself, "It should be around here. But where exactly?" Yin Tianchu asked curiously, "What are you looking for?" Without looking up, Lu Ping answered, "Divine stone." The curiosity on Yin Tianchu's face deepened. "You know where they are?" Lu Ping did not answer directly. Instead, he confirmed a place and hit the ground with his palm. Boom! A 3-foot pit instantly formed in the ground. Weeds and dust flew everywhere. At the same time, a fist-sized stone flew out from the pit and rolled to the side. "Hey, there really is one." Yin Tianchu did not see the strange look on Lu Ping's face. He stepped forward and grabbed the stone in his hand. If it was not the divine stone, what else could it be? Yin Tianchu handed the stone to Lu Ping, but saw Lu Ping's face filled with doubt. Yin Tianchu asked, "What? Isn't this the divine stone?" Lu Ping's primordial energy seeped into the stone like a fine mist. Then he nodded and shook his head. "It is, but not this one." This time, Lu Ping didn't wait for Yin Tianchu to ask again. Instead, he slammed his palm into the newly excavated 3-foot hole. A muffled sound rang out and another cloud of soil sprayed up. The 3-foot hole suddenly expanded to 5 feet in diameter, and the 1-foot depth also expanded to 3 feet. Yin Tianchu said, "There is a divine stone buried underground?" Lu Ping was a little uncertain. "There might be. Let's dig a hole and see." As he spoke, he struck out with his palm again. Yin Tianchu immediately said, "There really is." He reached out and grabbed a stone that was slightly smaller than before from the flying soil. This time, there was no need for Lu Ping to check. Yin Tianchu copied Lu Ping and attached a white icy mist to the stone. Yin Tianchu looked happy. He opened his mouth to say something, but Lu Ping's familiar voice had already fallen into their ears. This is Jiao Doran's mantra." After the voice finished, the two of them stood there without moving for the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn. All their minds were used to comprehend the mantra that Jiao Doran had said. Lu Ping nodded. "Not bad. Moreover, it is a commentary on the Ice Dragon race's cultivation method. Although it is only 3 to 5 sentences, you must have gained a lot, right?" Yin Tianchu revealed a rare smile. Then, he solemnly said, "I gained a lifetime of benefits." However, Lu Ping soon asked with a strange question, "You suppressed the Jiao Doran's protective intent in this stone?" Yin Tianchu was stunned. "No, my true essence had just seeped in when Jiao Doran's mantra sounded." Yin Tianchu once again sent his true essence into the stone, trying to suppress the protective intent in it. But this time, he was unable to suppress the Jiao Doran's protective intent. Lu Ping thought for a while and said, "Sometimes, it really depends on fate." The 4th palm hit. The pit was already 10 feet deep. This time, not only Yin Tianchu, but even Lu Ping was stunned. Because this time, what flew out of the pit was not soil, but a rain of gravel. Walala, 7 or 8 pieces of chiming gravel flew out. In Tianchu was dumbfounded. So many? Lu Ping touched his chin. He also had a look of disbelief. This seems to be a place where someone buried the chiming gravel. We accidentally found it. Someone? Who could it be? In Tianchu quickly realized that he had asked a stupid question. The gravel was buried so deep. It was obviously not buried by the cultivators of the Tao Altar's world. It could not even be buried by the cultivators who entered the Tao Altar's world after it opened a few hundred years ago. Then, the origin of this pile of gravel was not worth thinking about. In any case, it was undoubtedly a fallen senior cultivator. The two of them hurriedly put away the 8 pieces of gravel. Lu Ping looked at them one by one. His face showed a trace of disappointment. Lu Ping's expression did not escape Yin Tianchu's attention. He asked curiously, "What are you looking for?" Lu Ping's 5th palm hit. A pile of soil flew out. There was not a single chiming gravel. He said, "A very important chiming gravel. When I first entered the Tao Altar's world, I heard a Jiao Daoran mantra. The mantra's aura was very strong and gave me great inspiration. It even pointed me in the general direction of the mantra. At first, I thought it was the Tao Altar's ruins. But when I got there, I realized that I was slightly off course. So, I found this place." As he spoke, the 6th palm hit the pit 10 feet deep. However, there was still no sign of the chiming gravel. In Tianchu did not know what to say. He could determine the location of the chiming gravel from the Tao Altar's world. After all, after the collapse of the Tao Altar, he had never heard of anyone using this method to find the chiming gravel. After the 7th palm hit, the pit was 4 feet deep. There was still no gravel flying out. After the 8th palm hit, the pit was 5 feet deep. In Tianchu said, "It can't be wrong, right? It's so deep. Who would be so bored to bury the chiming gravel so deep?" However, before In Tianchu could finish, Lu Ping suddenly had a happy expression. He jumped to the bottom of the pit. In Tianchu bent down to look at the bottom of the pit. He saw Lu Ping squatting down and using his hand to wipe the bottom of the pit. A foot-long broken stone with decorative patterns appeared. If it wasn't the chiming gravel, what was it? "What is this?" In Tianchu was naturally not asking about the chiming gravel. He was asking what the gravel was used for on the Tao altar. Lu Ping did not raise his head. He pondered for a moment before saying, "This is most likely one of the broken stones at the base of the Jiao Daoran Tao altar." Chapter 1357. Looking at the broken stone, In Tianchu was a little bewildered and said, "Such a large piece of broken stone. The protective intent of the Jiao Daoran wouldn't have increased as well, would it? If you can erase the intent inside and bring such a large piece of broken stone back to the sect, wouldn't it be enough to forge 2 or 3 complete sea bells?" Lu Ping shook his head and said, "No, this broken stone will not be used to forge the sea bells. I want to keep this piece of broken stone for myself." In Tianchu didn't mind and said, "Then it's up to you. In any case, you discovered it yourself. However, this broken stone really does look like a pedestal that has been smashed. The carvings on the 2 smooth cross-sections are very interesting. Hey, look at the carvings. Doesn't it look like your Dharma idol? But it's really strange. The carving should look like a true spirit flood dragon. But why does it look so strange?" In Tianchu had seen Lu Ping's Dharma idol true body before. Lu Ping nodded and said, "That's not a flood dragon. It's a dragon." "Dragon? What is a dragon? How come I've never heard of it? Is it a type of flood dragon bloodline?" Lu Ping really wanted to say that flood dragon was a type of dragon bloodline, and a low-level one at that. It wouldn't even be recognized by the dragon race. But in the end, he explained, the two are of the same origin but different species, just like the ice dragon and flood dragon. In Tianchu came to a sudden realization and said, "That's what I said. Since our ice dragon bloodline exists outside of the 7 great heaven-splitting bloodlines, there might be other races that don't belong to the 7 great heaven-splitting bloodlines." In Yin Tianchu's view, Lu Ping's analogy naturally put the dragon in the position of the ice dragon. But Lu Ping was too lazy to explain. These things would only become more troublesome if explained clearly. Tianchu saw that Lu Ping was focusing all his energy on the so-called stone at the base of the Tao altar, so he asked, "Where are we going next?" Lu Ping was trying to use his zhenqi to seep into the stone, but he found that the protective intent contained in this stone was far greater than that of the other stones. Lu Ping estimated that even if he summoned his Dharma idol, he might not be able to suppress the intent within it. If that was the case, it would be a problem for him to take this stone out of the Tao altar world. When he suddenly heard Tianchu's question, Lu Ping was stunned as well, and then he said, "Naturally, we've met up with Martial Uncle Tiancheng and the others." Tianchu asked hesitantly, "You're not going to search anymore? That's 10 sonic shatstones in a short period of time, and it's 11 if you include the one you possess. Coupled with the one senior brother Lu possessed and the 4 you possess, it's a total of 16 sonic shatstones. If we're able to find another 16, then the sect will be able to refine 4 ocean bells in one go and form a defensive formation, causing its might to multiply. At that time, we wouldn't have to fear the calamity of all heaven." Lu Ping laughed involuntarily and said, "I was just lucky this time. Even I didn't know that this was the place where a senior cultivator buried the sound-crushing stones. If we want to find another place like this, we will need heaven-defying luck. Are we really going to dig 3 feet into this Tao altar world?" Tianchu also felt that he was a little ridiculous. The two of them stopped talking about the sound-crushing stones and began to move towards where Tiancheng, Laozu, and the others were. The two of them walked for more than 10 miles, but Lu Ping suddenly stretched out his hand and blocked Tianchu's path. The moment Lu Ping stretched out his hand, Tianchu's entire body began to turn illusory. The two of them cooperated very well. Just now, when Lu Ping scanned the surroundings with his divine sense, an unfamiliar divine sense suddenly retreated as soon as it came into contact with Lu Ping. At the same time, behind a gentle slope a few miles away, an escape light forcefully rose into the sky. That person didn't hesitate to expend a few times more Zhenyuan than usual to cast a flying escape technique. "Let's go. He has already left. Let's go and take a look." Lu Ping sped up, but Tianchu still did not reveal himself. However, one thing was certain, he was definitely not far away from Lu Ping. A moment later, Lu Ping arrived at the gentle slope and saw a cultivator lying there covered in blood a few 100 feet away. However, from the rise and fall of the person's chest, that person was obviously still alive. Someone was robbed. The void next to Lu Ping fluctuated, and Tianchu returned to his previous indifference. However, from his tone, Lu Ping could tell that he was not surprised at all. "This is not the first time this has happened?" Tianchu nodded and said, "That's right, I was inspired by those 5 people. After the incident of the 5 great cultivators from the 4 sects, including Wuxing School, forming an alliance to sneak attack the enemies of the other sects, the cultivators in the Tao altar world began to gather together. However, there were still many lone cultivators wandering around the Tao altar world to cultivate. As a result, there were many robberies and acts of revenge against these people. Although killing was not allowed in the Tao altar world, the 5 great cultivators who had been the first to attack had indeed provided a good idea for these people. Lu Ping walked towards this cultivator and stopped a few feet away from him. The person in front of him was an early Dharma adept, and the person who had escaped after coming into contact with Lu Ping's divine sense was obviously a late Dharma adept. It was no wonder that the person in front of him was so unlucky. Tianchu's voice sounded beside Lu Ping's ear. "Are you going to save him or not?" Lu Ping shook his head and said, "There's no saving him. This person was ambushed from behind and was seriously injured. However, the person who ambushed him was very careful and did not take his life. After that, he forcefully destroyed his divine sense. Even if we did save him, he would still be an idiot. However, it seems that this was the first time the person who ambushed him had done something like this, or maybe he was just coincidentally discovered by us. He seemed to be in a panic. Although the person's storage instruments were all taken away, a few hidden pockets on his clothes were actually ignored. It seems that this person is really not qualified to be a robber." Tianchu used his divine sense to scan the area and laughed secretly. He said, A dignified Dharma adept is very likely to be someone who can call the wind and summon the rain in his sect. I'm afraid this is the first time he has done something like this, and from the looks of it, this person must have been born in a famous sect with a long history. If he was a Dharma adept from a small sect, which one of them would not know how to kill and rob? Tianchu deftly lifted the clothes on the unconscious cultivator and took out the items from the hidden pockets. He turned around and saw that Lu Ping had pushed the person's outstretched arm away. It was only then that Tianchu noticed that the person's palm was flat on the ground. Other than the index finger, all 5 fingers were straight. After the palm that Lu Ping had pushed away, the words that were hidden underneath were also revealed. Guangfa Zeng. Lu Ping mumbled to himself, "It should be a Dharma adept with the surname Zeng from the Guangfa sect of the South Sea, but I just don't know who this person is." Tianchu threw a token to Lu Ping and said, "Look at this." Lu Ping took the token and looked at it. He immediately frowned and said, "A disciple of the Skyward Pavilion. This person from the Guangfa sect is very bold. He actually dared to make a move on a disciple of the Skyward Pavilion. This matter is a bit unusual." Tianchu said, "This has nothing to do with us. Let's leave this place quickly. If we are seen by others, then we won't be able to explain ourselves." Lu Ping nodded and gently put down the friar's palm to cover the words on the ground. Then, he put the token back into the hidden pocket of the friar's clothes. Only then did the two of them leave in a hurry. The 3 sects' meeting point was located at the border of the 3rd layer, where early Dharma adepts would descend, and the 2nd layer, where mid-Dharma adepts would descend. Right now, Lu Ping's divine sense could cover a radius of 20 to 30 miles. Logically speaking, he should have already discovered the 3 sects' temporary encampment. Could it be that they had something to do and left first? Although Tianchu said this, his figure had already disappeared again. Although Lu Ping did not stop walking, his divine will was constantly sweeping the surroundings, trying to find some clues that the cultivators of the 3 sects had left behind when they left. Here, Tianchu's voice came from afar. When Lu Ping walked over, he saw an inconspicuous mark on a piece of green stone. It looked like a scratch, and it was the secret seal that Xinling usually used. Tianchu made a few hand seals, and a spiritual light was injected into the secret seal. The secret seal was instantly activated, and a voice left behind by the sealed Tianqing Laozu traveled into their ears. Lu Ping and Tianchu immediately breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out that they had found traces of the 5 great cultivators in a corner on the east side of the altar world. The cultivators of the various sects had already headed there, and Tianqing Laozu had left a map that pointed out the direction they had left in. However, just as the two of them were about to leave to chase after Tianqing Laozu, Lu Ping's expression changed. There was a flash of light under Tianchu's feet, and it was an early warning talisman. Tianchu looked down, and his expression changed as well. Early warning talisman, there's an ambush. Almost at the same time, the 5 late Dharma adepts charged into Lu Ping's divine will from different directions, and they flew directly in the direction of Lu Ping and Tianchu. "Let's go." Lu Ping pulled Tianchu, who was next to him, and they flew in the same direction. Although Tianchu did not realize that something was wrong, the moment he saw the look on Lu Ping's face, he knew that the situation was serious. Like Lu Ping, he did not care about conserving the inner yuan in his body. After casting the secret technique of concealment, he followed closely behind Lu Ping, and they flew at full speed in the direction indicated by the route that Tianqing Laozu had left behind. 5 great cultivators, and they're coming from different directions. Let's use all our strength to break out of the encirclement. We can't let them surround us. Tianchu nodded to show that he understood, but he asked, "Is it those 5? How did they manage to set up early warning talismans here?" Lu Ping's expression darkened. The cultivators of the various sects had obviously fallen into the trap of these 5 people. As for how these 5 people had found their way here, even Lu Ping himself was not too sure. However, the fact that they were able to accurately set up early warning talismans near the secret Xinling seal that Tianqing Laozu had left behind and wait for Lu Ping and Yin Tianchu to take the bait meant that they were very familiar with the situation of the Tianqin sect, the Tianyue sect, and the Jinling sect. A frightening thought flashed through Lu Ping's mind. There's a traitor. A ridiculing voice sounded out from behind them, and it said, "Ha ha, Lu Tianping, I never expected that it would really be you. You've really worn out iron shoes in search of me. Let me see where you'll run off to this time." Immediately after, a voice that was gnashing its teeth was also heard. "Lu Tianping, my senior Han and junior Hua's revenge will fall on you. The old man will definitely make you beg for death today." As soon as the two voices faded away, another voice came from behind Lu Ping and Yin Tianchu, who had changed direction and chased after them. "Don't say anything more. This person's flying speed is getting faster and faster." At this time, the five great cultivators who had surrounded Lu Ping from 30 miles away from different directions realized that Lu Tianping seemed to have noticed them the moment they made their moves. Just when they tried to shrink the encirclement, they found that Lu Ping's flying skill was actually faster than theirs. The encirclement of the five people was indeed shrinking, but the distance between the great cultivators from the other four directions and Lu Ping was increasing. At this time, the distance between Gu, the great cultivator of Wuxing School, who was coming toward Lu Ping, was shrinking rapidly. Guarding Laozu, who was chasing from the side, soon discovered Lu Ping's intention. When he heard that Lingshu Laozu and Wujie Laozu were still talking tough as if victory was in their grasp, he had to remind them. At the same time, he also warned Gu, who was about to face Lu Tianping, to be careful. However, as soon as guarding Laozu's voice faded away, a mocking laugh suddenly came into the ears of the five great cultivators. "Do you know, the ambush of the five seniors is exquisite, and I have indeed fallen into your trap. However, the five seniors should not have let Senior Gu rush so fast, so that I can deal with him alone." Chapter 1359. Just as the five late Dharma adepts, including Guda, were closing in on Lu Ping and Lu Ping from 30 miles away, they did not expect that Lu Ping's divine will was far stronger than theirs and could buy him enough distance to break out of the encirclement. What the five great adepts did not expect was that Lu Ping's escape technique could be so fast. When Lu Ping chose to rush towards Guda, behind him were Lingshu Laozu of the spiritual martial sect and Wujie Laozu of the Taishan sect. However, the distance between the two of them had suddenly widened from 30 miles to 35 miles. On the contrary, Lu Ping and Guda were walking opposite each other. At this time, the distance between them had suddenly shrunk to outside the house, and the two sides were about to meet. "Not good, senior brother Gu. Retreat quickly. As long as the two of them can break out of the encirclement, we can completely surround them." Lu Ping's sneer shocked Laozu, who quickly found a loophole in the encirclement of the five people and hurriedly reminded him. Indeed, Laozu saw the crux of the problem at once, but his warning was too late. At this time, the distance between Lu Ping and Guda had already shrunk to a mile, and the two sides were still facing each other. Guda had already reduced his speed to prepare to intercept, but Lu Ping was still moving forward with an indomitable momentum, as if he did not even consider that if he could not break through Guda's obstruction in one move, he would be at the mercy of others. In fact, cultivator Guda had nowhere to hide at this moment. Looking at the aggressive Lu Ping, he snorted coldly and said, "You want to pass the old man in one move? That depends on whether you have the ability or not." Not only had Guda heard of Lu Ping's abilities, they had even fought against each other before. Although Guda knew that he was no match for Lu Ping back then, that was then, and this was now. Guda had been kidnapped by Wuxing School's secret magic, and as the first candidate to become the pure young cultivator in Wuxing School, his strength was no longer the same as before. Guda was confident that he could stop Lu Ping, and he might even be able to defeat him. However, what he saw was a sneer on Lu Ping's face. A flying sword rose into the sky. Lu Ping waved the flying sword in his hand and shouted, "Kill!" The swords of true spirit transformed into three strange WIRMs that roared toward Gu to heaven-opening swordsmanship. Lu Tianping of the North Sea had mastered a swordsmanship that could transform a flying sword into three strange WIRMs. This was no longer a secret in the world of cultivation. Since Guda dared to come alone to stop Lu Ping from breaking out of the encirclement, he had naturally been prepared for this swordsmanship magic. However, Lu Ping did not shout fight, but kill. Although Guda had the blessing of the secret magic of Wuxing School, and his cultivation had rapidly improved to the critical point of becoming a pure young cultivator, he had forgotten that while he was improving, others were also improving. Lu Ping had been training in seclusion in the world of the Taoist altar for more than half a year. Not only had he reached the peak of the middle Dharma stage, but he had also mastered his unparalleled swordsmanship magic. The swordsmanship of opening heaven that Lu Ping had obtained had 3 incantations. The first was fight, the second was kill, and the third was die. They represented 3 sets of the swordsmanship of opening heaven. Lu Ping had previously only understood one of the incantations, fight. However, during the half a year of seclusion in the world of the Taoist altar, especially after understanding the root of the soaring dragon galaxy technique, Lu Ping had once again understood the kill incantation of the swordsmanship of opening heaven. The 3 roaring WIRMs did not wait to hit Guda, who was already prepared. Instead, they suddenly merged into one in the air. The purple-gold WIRM nearly doubled in size. Then, under Gu Da's fearful gaze, it knocked away the mountain-shaped spirit treasure in his hand and swallowed it in one gulp. Lu Ping followed closely behind, and the purple-gold WIRM reformed into a sword of true spirit. Gu Da, who had already been seriously injured, fell from the sky. However, Lu Ping suddenly said, "Junior Martial Brotherine, stop." A figure suddenly appeared in the air. The spirit treasure in his hand, the supreme mystery thorn, had just stopped an inch away from the eyeball of the severely injured Guda and fell from the sky with him. Lu Ping stepped forward and grabbed Yin Tianchu, saying, "You can't kill people in the world of the Taoist altar, go." Yin Tianchu flicked the supreme mystery thorn in his hand and separated the nameless finger with a storage ring on it from Gu Da's left hand. He then kicked Gu Da, who had already fainted, and his body immediately smashed towards Lao Zu, who was the first to rush over. Lao Zu, who had been ready to save Gu Da, hurriedly restrained his momentum. His face was bright red, and the real essence in his heart and abdomen was turbulent. He almost suffered an internal injury, but he still caught Gu Da safely. Lu Ping seriously injured Gu Da with one sword strike, and Yin Tianchu used the unconscious Gu Da to stall Lao Zu, who was close at hand. On the other side, the great cultivator of Feiyun Pavilion, Yuntian Lao Zu, had slowed down. Although he was still shouting, he was obviously frightened by Lu Ping's power. As for Wujie Lao Zu and Lingshu Lao Zu, who were chasing behind Lu Ping, they had been left far behind by Lu Ping and the others. Now that they saw Lu Ping and Lingshu break out of the encirclement, they did not have the courage to chase after them. The 4 of them quickly gathered together and looked at the unconscious great cultivator Gu on the ground. The 4 great cultivators looked at each other, and each of them had a look of dejection in their eyes. Lao Zu sighed and said, "Hide. In less than 2 months, the world of the Taoist altar will close." The other 3 Lao Zu nodded solemnly. They knew that even if they escaped the joint encirclement of the cultivators of various sects in the world of the Taoist altar, they would have to pay a huge price to deal with the aftermath after the world of the Taoist altar closed. They were different from those low-level practitioners who had the opportunity to enter all sorts of secret zones and forbidden grounds to explore. They were different from those low-level practitioners who would kill each other in order to fight for cultivation resources. They were Dharma adepts, and they were the pillars of any sect. They were the ones who could cause chaos and war in the cultivation world. Therefore, when they caused public anger because of some improper planning, they had to pay a huge price to appease the anger of the various sects, and they might even face the danger of being isolated. Lu Ping and Yin Tianchu flew out for nearly 100 miles before stopping. Seeing the strange look in Yin Tianchu's eyes, Lu Ping pretended not to see it and coughed. He said, "What good things are in that Gu Da's storage ring?" Yin Tianchu threw the storage ring into Lu Ping's hand. As for the finger, he had already thrown it somewhere along the way. He said, "That person is not dead. I can't open this ring." Lu Ping took it in his hand and looked at it. He said, "Then there's no other way. We can only break it open by force. Hopefully, there are some good things left in it." Lu Ping's divine will entered the ring in an instant, suppressing the trace of Gu Da's divine will. Then, the inner yuan in his hand surged into the ring, and in an instant, the storage ring exploded. Yin Tianchu was already used to Lu Ping's method of easily shattering the dignity of various late Dharma idol adepts. Instead, he focused all his attention on the various items that had been thrown around after the storage ring exploded, avoiding being cut up by the spatial fragments. He is indeed a great adept from a sacred land. The items in this storage ring have been damaged by the spatial fragments, but there are still so many left. Even someone as cold as Yin Tianchu could not hide his uneasiness after seeing such a rich collection of cultivation resources. However, Lu Ping's attention was on the 2 white jade cattail hassocks and a jade scroll. When Lu Ping accidentally bumped into Gouda and the others looking for the white jade cattail hassocks in the world of the Taoist altar, they had already found 3. Now, there were only 2 white jade cattail hassocks left. The rest might have been broken when the ring exploded. Chapter 1360. In fact, Lu Ping was just trying to ask Linglong. Lu Ping had heard from the praying mantis that sometimes it was possible to get a part of the other party's memory by swallowing each other. But most of the time, it was just some scattered things that were not very useful, so Lu Ping did not care too much about it. However, since it involved a shortcut to the pure yang stage, or a shortcut, Lu Ping had to pay attention to it. From the jade slip Lu Ping had obtained, the reason why Wuxing School could ensure that the inheritance of the pure yang cultivators would not be cut off was because of this secret technique that only existed in Wuxing School. If it was possible for Lu Ping to master this secret technique and ensure that there would be at least one pure yang cultivator in every generation, then the status of the large Jinling sect would be impregnable. He did not expect that Linglong really had some scattered memories of this under Lu Ping's reminder. This made Lu Ping ecstatic, and he hurriedly asked the Sword of Real Spirit. Imoli did not wait for Lu Ping to ask, and had already given Lu Ping all the information about using the Heaven and Earth Wine Cauldron to perform the Pure Yang secret technique. Although it was still scattered, it was obviously more detailed than Linglong's memory. Only the praying mantis is left. It is now with Martial Uncle Jiang. I can only ask it after I leave this Tao altar world. I hope that there are not too many things about this secret technique that are lost. Thinking of this, Lu Ping asked Yin Tianchu, who was beside him, "Junior brother Yin, have you found any traces of this white marble futon?" Yin Tianchu shook his head and said, "Sixth brother Lei seems to have one. But this white marble futon is far less useful in the cultivation world than in the Tao altar world. Therefore, many famous sects that can often enter the Tao altar world will hide the white marble futons they have collected in a secret place in the Tao altar world. In this way, the next time they enter the Tao altar world, they can use a spiritual vein to cultivate. This time, you've sent a message to the cultivators in the Tao altar world with the chaos talismans. Almost everyone already knows that the 5-element sect has another use for collecting the white marble cattail cushions. So, the person who has the white marble cattail cushions in his possession is even more secretive." The two walked for another 10 miles and saw more than 10 rays of light flying over from the horizon. They were the cultivators of the Tianxin sect, the Tianyue sect, and the Jinling sect. Among the 10 rays of light, the one flying at the front was Tiancheng Laozu. Seeing that Lu Ping and Yin Tianchu were fine, Tiancheng Laozu was overjoyed. Behind him, Qingli Laozu and a great cultivator of the Tianyue sect also heaved a sigh of relief. After Lu Ping and Yin Tianchu met the senior cultivators of the two sects, they found another temporary place to stay. The great cultivator of the Tianyue sect asked with a slightly guilty expression, "You two didn't encounter any danger, did you?" Lu Ping asked with a smile, "Are you talking about the 4 sects and 5 great cultivators of Wuxing School?" The great cultivator's face turned pale, and he said, "You already know. Sigh, the sect is unfortunate to have such an evil disciple. I'm sorry to have implicated you too." Qingli Laozu, who was standing at the side, asked curiously, "Seeing that you two are fine, Could it be that you discovered the plot of the 5 people in advance? Lu Ping laughed lightly and said, "It's not that we discovered it early, but we broke out before the 5 people formed an encirclement." Yin Tianchu said coldly, "The one with the surname Gu has already been seriously injured by senior brother Lu." Although Lu Ping said it casually, it was needless to say that being surrounded by the 5 great cultivators was a dangerous situation. Even if either of the 2 great cultivators present had been in that situation, they might not have been able to escape unscathed. The fact that the 2 mid-Dharma adepts in front of them could break out without a scratch was enough to make Qingli Laozu and the great cultivator of the Tianyue sect secretly shocked. But Yin Tianchu's words caused the expressions of the 2 to change. The great cultivator with the surname Gu from Wuxing School broke out of the encirclement after being seriously injured by Lu Ping. Qingli Laozu's face was full of seriousness and he said, "Did Lu Xiaoyu really injure that person?" Lu Ping smiled and did not say anything. The great cultivator of the Tianyue sect seemed to have already believed Yin Tianchu's words and said, "This person is already the first candidate to advance to the pure yang stage in the earth element of Wuxing School." The explosive increase in his strength in this battle of Joshuan Tower can be said to be amazing. I did not expect that Lu Xiaoyu would be able to seriously injure him in front of everyone. Everyone was old and experienced. When Lu Ping and Yin Tianchu mentioned the situation of breaking out of the encirclement, they could more or less reconstruct the situation at that time. They could also guess that the 2 must have used a time difference to create a partial advantage in breaking out of the encirclement when the 2 of them joined forces to deal with one person. But this time difference must have been extremely short. In other words, the 2 of them only had a total of 1 or 2 rounds, but they had succeeded. As for whether it was 1 round or 2 of them that seriously injured a great Dharma adept who was about to step into the pure yang stage, it was no longer important. What was important was that this North Sea Water Sword immortal seemed to have the qualifications to be on equal footing with the many great cultivators in this world of cultivation. Until they walked out of their temporary residence, Tianchu Laozu still had an excited expression. It was clear that he was wild with joy at the strength that Lu Ping had displayed. "Disciple Lu, did you really seriously injure that great cultivator from Wuxing School with 1 move?" Lu Ping looked helplessly at Lu Tianyuan, who was beside him, and said, "Uncle Master, this is the 4th time you've asked me about this." Tianchu Laozu chuckled and said, "1 move, huh? That's the pure yang candidate for the earth element of Wuxing School, the person who inherited the title of Earth's spiritual son. Even senior brother Jiang doesn't have this ability." Seeing this, Lu Tianyuan quickly changed the topic and said, "Uncle Master, we need to find a secret place first. Didn't junior brother Yin just say that junior brother Lu can suppress the will of the 7th patriarch in the sound-crushed stone? He might even be able to erase it, so we can bring the sound-crushed stone out of the world of the Taoist altar." Tianchu Laozu slapped his forehead and said, "Yes, yes, yes, I almost forgot about the important matter. This time, we joined forces with other sects to encircle those 5 people. Although we were lured away from our territory, we still got 2 sound-crushed stones. Oh, and a white jade cattail hassock. I heard you mention in the talisman that Wuxing School is collecting this thing, so I brought it along. It's a pity that we destroyed a spirit vein because of this." Seeing Tianchu Laozu's pained expression, Lu Ping was secretly amused. He wondered how surprised Tianchu would be when he found out the true use of the white jade cattail hassock. Yin Tianchu looked at Tianchu Laozu, and the corner of his mouth twitched. It was obvious that he had thought of this problem. After exchanging a look with Lu Ping, the 2 of them did not mention this matter again. It was not too difficult to find a secret place in the world of the Tao altar. After all, there were only a total of 150 Dharma adepts in the entire world of the Tao altar. Moreover, because many of them had been turned into idiots by others, the Dharma adepts of the various sects were all very suspicious and had gathered together. Not many people would still wander around the world of the Tao altar at this time. After the 5 Dharma adepts of Zhenling found a secluded place, they set up many warning talismans within a 30-mile radius. As a precaution, Lu Ping turned the cloud sail around the station into a protective cloud shield. At the same time, the white jade lotus array was once again melted into the ground. The area within a radius of 1 mile was completely under Lu Ping's control. Let's begin. Tianchu Laozu said to Lu Ping as he looked at the disciples around him who had a look of anticipation on their faces. Lu Ping nodded and said, "Although I'm able to suppress most of the will of creation in these rocks, it won't be easy for everyone to hear it. This will depend on luck." Everyone nodded. Seeing this, Lu Ping held a piece of broken rock in his hand. Thick inner yuan gathered in Lu Ping's palm, finally forming a 3-foot dragon that circled around the broken rock. Occasionally, it would open its mouth and spit out invisible flames or 3-colored mist. A deafening roar came from the broken stones. "You don't even understand this? I've told you 3 times. Do you know how to control the fire?" The key to the spiritual fire forging technique is the support of a powerful divine thought. Remember, no matter if you understand it or not, you can't tell that old tortoise. "This is my secret technique. If anyone dares to leak it to that old tortoise, I'll smash his skull with my hammer." The violent impact of this divine will made Lei Laolu and Tianchu Laozu pale. Once they heard the middle-aged woman's tiger-like roar, they knew that this person must be Taoist Hu, one of the 7th patriarch of the heaven-opening sect. Lei Di and Tianchu Laozu clearly sensed the will in this broken rock. However, looking at their expressions, it was obvious that this secret technique was not so easy to obtain. Lu Ping looked at Lu Tianyuan and Yin Tianchu, who looked as usual. He could not help but ask, "What's wrong? Didn't you feel anything?" Lu Tianyuan uttered an ah and said, "Have you suppressed the will inside?" Looking at Lu Ping's expression, and then looking at Tianchu Laozu and Lei Di, who closed their eyes and carefully comprehended, Lu Tianyuan was slightly disappointed and said, "I didn't hear anything." Lu Ping nodded. He did not expect that the first broken rock was actually from Taoist whose explanation of the spiritual fire forging technique. Although Lu Ping had already mastered this secret technique and successfully used it in alchemy, he still learned a lot from Taoist whose roar. It was a pity that Chen Lian was not here. Otherwise, with Chen Lian's attainments in the craftsmanship of craftsmanship and what he had learned from studying the method of forging and purification with spiritual fire over the years, he would have made greater progress in craftsmanship of craftsmanship after hearing Taoist whose roar. It was already 4 hours later when Tianchu Laozu and Lei Di woke up from the comprehension. Looking at the broken rock in Lu Ping's hand, they were obviously reluctant to part with it. Lu Ping said helplessly, "We can't take it out of the Taoist altar world without erasing the will inside." Tianchu Laozu waved his hand helplessly and said, erase it, but remember these words. When you go out, write down your own understanding and hand it to the sect." This will be the secret technique of the sect in the future. As for how much the later disciples can comprehend from these literal records, it depends on their own luck. Chapter 1361. The 5 Dharma adepts of Zhenling now had close to 20 pieces of the sound-breaking stone in their hands. If this news were to be leaked, it would probably cause a commotion in the world of the Tao altar. However, the number of sound-breaking stone in their hands was not important. What was important was that the adept could suppress the will of the 7th patriarch within the stone and obtain the mantra of the 7th patriarch within it. For tens of thousands of years in the world of cultivation, it was not that there were no outstanding adepts who could suppress the will of the 7th patriarch within the sound-breaking stone with absolute power in the world of the Tao altar. However, none of them had obtained the mantra of the 7th patriarch within it. However, for someone like Lu Ping to be able to suppress the will of the sound-breaking stone with such ease and obtain the mantra of the 7th patriarch within it was not easy. It was said that Xiao Baiyu had taken advantage of the opening of the Tao altar between the Endless Mountain and the Western Wilderness Demon Clan to forcefully enter the world of the Tao altar as a human adept. In the Tao altar, he had obtained 12 pieces of sound-breaking stone in a row and suppressed the will within 7 of them with his tyrannical power. In the end, he had completely erased the protective will within 4 of them. At that time, many demon adepts had already been shocked by this feat, and no one dared to cause trouble for Xiao Baiyu in the Tao altar anymore. Furthermore, Xiao Baiyu had also used this ability to subdue many demon adepts from the Endless Mountain. It was at that time that the younger brother of the Peacock King, Yang Shouchong, became the best friend of Xiao Baiyu. One had to know that Xiao Baiyu was already a late Dharma adept at that time. He had just killed the pure Yang sword Celestial LV Taiching in the Ziyang Palace and was at the peak of his fame. However, what was Lu Ping's current level of cultivation? The mid-Dharma stage. Could it be that Lu Ping's current level of cultivation at the mid-Dharma stage was already comparable to that of Xiao Baiyu, who was at the late Dharma stage? Didn't that mean that he now had the strength to kill a pure Yang cultivator? At this time, the four Jinling Dharma adepts watched as Lu Ping suppressed the protective will piece by piece, drawing out the seventh patriarch's mantra one by one for the others to comprehend. The few of them had long become numb to it. What's more, as long as someone could perceive each of these mantras, it would take at least 4 to 6 hours to comprehend. If it took too long, it might take 10 to 10 hours, or even a whole day to understand the mysteries of the seventh patriarch's mantra. They really didn't have the time to figure out to what extent Lu Ping's true strength had improved. Lu Ping naturally knew that his own strength was not at such an unimaginable level yet. The reason why he could easily suppress and even erase the protective will in the rubble was not only because his own strength was comparable to that of a late Dharma adept, but also because of his Dharma power of the dragon, as well as the triple light divine water that he had just learned. He could use his own ethereal force to condense the true qi into triple light divine water. The former could easily suppress any protective will belonging to Lao Tzu in the stone fragments, while the latter could completely erase any protective will belonging to Lao Tzu. However, after Lu Ping had consecutively erased the protective will in 3 of the stone fragments, Tianqing Laozu suddenly thought of something and hurriedly stopped Lu Ping. He said, "Disciple Lu, can you erase the protective will in all of these stone fragments?" Lu Ping was a little confused, but he still said, "I should be able to most of them." Of course, he would not say everything, but this was enough. Tianqing Laozu looked at the 3 stone fragments that had their protective will erased and regretted it. He said, "Sigh, what a pity, what a pity. You just have to suppress the protective will in the next stone fragments and draw out the mantra. Don't erase the protective will in them yet." "Why?" Before Lu Ping could ask, Sixth Brother Lei, who was beside him, asked, "Aren't we going to bring these stone fragments out? If we don't erase the protective will, how are we going to bring them out?" Tianqing Laozu pointed at Sixth Brother Lei and said bluntly, "Are you stupid? As long as we don't erase the protective will in these stone fragments, the mantra of the seventh patriarch can be kept. We can totally exchange the stone fragments with other sects and then listen to the mantra through Disciple Lu." Tianqing Laozu and Sixth Brother Lei got along well. Although they had not known each other for a long time, they had a good relationship and did not stand on ceremony when they joked with each other. However, Tianqing Laozu's idea made everyone's eyes light up. The mantra of the seventh patriarch in the stone fragments depended on luck for most cultivators. Not to mention the fact that it was impossible to erase the protective will, even if they could only suppress the protective will and draw out the contents of the mantra. Those great cultivators could only do it from time to time. Moreover, most of the time, it did not work. There were even many cultivators who found that they could not draw out the mantra of the seventh patriarch after obtaining a stone fragment, so they threw it back. Since they could not bring it out, what was the point of keeping it? If they forgot to put it in their storage artifact and the world of the Tao altar suddenly opened again to summon everyone back, wouldn't their storage artifact explode? This was also why the cultivators in the Tao altar world would usually put the chiming crushed stone in their pockets instead of putting it in their storage magic artifact. Jinling sect had obtained nearly 20 pieces of sound-shattering stones from the Tao altar world. Other sects like Heavenly Profound sect and Heavenly Moon sect who were on good terms with Jinling sect might not have as many as Jinling sect, but they would still be able to obtain 7 or 8 pieces. As long as Jinling sect could pick out an equal number of sound-shattering stones to exchange with these people, the other sects would naturally not let go of this opportunity. Since it was all about luck, the more the better. The other sects naturally had no reason to refuse. However, what they did not know was that Jinling had a freak like Lu Ping. In the eyes of others, it was a matter of luck, but for Jinling, it became a matter of luck. In this way, Didn't it mean that the five of them could always listen to the teachings of the seventh patriarch, and Jinling could also obtain many of the contents of the mantra and their own insights? With this thought in mind, everyone became excited. Even Lu Ping regretted not doing this earlier. There were only 40 to 50 days left before the altar's closing. Even if they didn't sleep or rest, it would still take them 6 to 5 hours to comprehend each mantra. How many mantras would they be able to comprehend in the future? Moreover, although it was not difficult for Lu Ping to suppress the intent of the crushed stones, it was still a matter that consumed a lot of true essence and divine sense. Moreover, Lu Ping still had to use some time to erase the protective intent of the crushed stones in order to smoothly bring these crushed stones out of the Tao altar world. By the time Lu Ping had guided the mantras contained in nearly 20 pieces of musical crushed stones, half a month had already passed. Other than Lu Ping, who could sense all the mantras that he guided out, the one who could sense the most mantras was actually Sixth Lei. This guy had obtained a total of 11 mantras, while Im Tianchu had only sensed 10. Tiancheng Laozu had obtained 8, and Lu Tianyuan had only obtained 7. Even so, this was already a storm of mantras for the four of them. Everyone spent 3 days to carefully organize the insights that they had obtained from the crushed stones. Then, they hurried back to the Profound Sky sect and the Heavenly Moon sect's encampment with more than 10 pieces of musical crushed stones, preparing to exchange with the crushed stones that the two sects had obtained. Chapter 1362. After hearing Jinling's intentions, Qingli Laozu from the Profound Sky sect naturally would not refuse. Jinling naturally would not tell them that he had nearly 20 sound-crushing stones in his possession. However, when Qingli Laozu saw the 10 sound-crushing stones that Tiancheng Laozu took out, he was shocked. This was because the Profound Sky sect clearly had more cultivators than Jinling, but they only had 7 or 8 sound-crushing stones in their possession. With Lu Ping, this killing machine, Tiancheng Laozu naturally would not fuss over this matter. He very generously exchanged the 10 sound-crushing stones with the Profound Sky sect. However, he made it clear that he would exchange them back after using them. Jinling still wanted to use them to exchange with other sections. Trying one's luck with 10 sound-crushing stones was always better than trying one's luck with 8 sound-crushing stones. The Profound Sky sect naturally agreed since they had gotten the benefits for free. Jinling was also happy to silently make a fortune. This continued for 6 or 7 days. Tiancheng Laozu was a bit dispirited when he exchanged for the sound-crushing stones from the Profound Sky sect. When Qingli Laozu found out that only 3 of Jinling's people had sensed one mantra, while the Profound Sky sect's cultivators had sensed 3 mantras from the 10 sound-crushing stones they had left behind, Tiancheng Laozu was even more dispirited. Qingli Laozu even comforted him, saying that it was all due to luck. In reality, the reason why Tiancheng Laozu was dispirited was because out of the 8 seventh patriarch mantras that Lu Ping had guided, Tiancheng Laozu had only sensed 3 of them. This was the least out of the 4 people. However, Jinling still used these 10 sound-crushing stones to exchange for 6 more sound-crushing stones from the Heavenly Moon sect. 5 days later, Tiancheng Laozu excitedly exchanged for these 10 sound-crushing stones from the Heavenly Moon sect. He told the Heavenly Moon sect that they had sensed 2 mantras from the 6 sound-crushing stones, while the Heavenly Moon sect had only sensed 2 mantras from Jinling's 10 sound-crushing stones. However, the truth was that Tiancheng Laozu had sensed 4 of the 6 sound-crushing stones from Lu Ping. This was the most out of the 4. However, after hearing that Tiancheng Laozu had exchanged for 6 sound-crushing stones from the Heavenly Moon sect, Qingli Laozu had brought the 8 sound-crushing stones that he had collected. Inspired by Jinling, they exchanged with the Heavenly Moon sect again, hoping that they would be able to encounter a few opportunities. The continuous storm-like sound-crushing stones not only gave everyone an understanding of their cultivation, but after their minds were continuously attacked by the will of the 7th patriarch, the cultivation of Tiancheng Laozu and the other 3 sound-crushing stones had increased significantly. Only Lu Ping's sound-crushing stones was too strong, so the benefits that the sound-crushing stones brought to him were negligible. After exchanging the sound-crushing stones with the Heavenly Shin sect and the Heavenly Moon sect, a month had passed. In the remaining 10 days, Jinling did not try to contact the cultivators of the other sects to exchange sound-crushing stones. Instead, he began to make preparations to leave the world of the Tao altar. In reality, in these last 10 days, the will of the seventh patriarch, who was attacking the sound-crushing stones in the Tao altar, seemed to be much stronger than before. Even the people in the Tao altar could occasionally sense the will of the seventh patriarch. Lu Ping alone had sensed 4 wills, while Tianqing Laozu and the other 3 had also gained something. Although these 10 days were used to consolidate their understanding of their cultivation, it was also the last opportunity for them to cultivate. In reality, other than Yin Tianchu, who had just advanced to the mid-Dharma stage, the other 4, including Lu Ping, had already reached the limit of their own cultivation. Other than Lu Ping, who had the help of his powerful divine will, who could still suppress the aura around him, if the other 3 were to leave the world of the Tao altar, they would probably summon the Thunder Trial at the first instance. The reason why they did not try to exchange for more sound-crushing stones in this last period of time was that they had to focus all their attention on suppressing their own aura, hoping that they would not attract the Thunder Trial once they left the world of the Tao altar. Although with their current strength, they had a 70 to 80% chance of surviving the Thunder Trial even if they did not make any preparations. No one was willing to risk their lives if they made extra preparations to increase their chances of success by 10 to 20%. After Lu Ping suppressed and erased the protective will in all the sound-crushing stones, he focused all his remaining energy on the broken stone that was a foot square at the base of the Tao altar. Although the sound-crushing stones did not mean that the larger they were, the richer the contents of the mantra and the stronger the protective will. However, the protective will in this broken stone was beyond Lu Ping's expectations. Other than the reminder that Lu Ping had given Lu Ping when he entered the world of the Tao altar, which allowed Lu Ping to confirm that this was the broken stone, Lu Ping had spent 3 whole days trying to suppress Zhao Doran's will in this broken stone, but he had not succeeded. It was not that he could not suppress the protective will in the broken stone, but that Lu Ping could not find the location of Zhao Doran's protective will in the broken stone at all. If it was not for the fact that Lu Ping had a mysterious connection with this broken stone, he would have suspected that the mantra that justified his cultivation method really came from this broken stone. Lu Ping simply stopped using his quintessential essence. Instead, he sat cross-legged in front of the broken stone and closed his eyes to rest. Only Lu Ping would be so crazy to use his quintessential essence to refine this broken stone for 3 consecutive days. However, even Lu Ping felt a little tired after using his quintessential essence for such a long time. Even so, Lu Ping kept using his quintessential essence to capture the mysterious connection with this broken stone during the process of recovering his quintessential essence. As a result, Lu Ping's thoughts became clearer. Come out. Why? Do you want me to smash you in a fit of anger? Lu Ping actually spoke to the broken stone. However, this was a stone. After all, how could it communicate with a human? However, a mischievous smile appeared on Lu Ping's face. His left thumb and index finger suddenly touched the neck of the dragon relief carved on the smooth surface of the broken stone and suddenly squeezed. The dragon relief sculpture suddenly seemed to come to life. It suddenly struggled on the surface of the broken stone, trying to break free from Lu Ping's grasp. However, Lu Ping seemed to have predicted that it would struggle. His 2 fingers strangled the relief sculpture's neck and did not loosen his grip at all. What's wrong? Are you not going to hide or pretend anymore? Kid, who are you? How did you manage to cultivate the soaring dragon galaxy technique? A flustered and exasperated voice suddenly came out of the dragon relief's mouth. Hurry up and let me go. If it were not for me, I'm afraid you wouldn't even know the name of your cultivation method. Chapter 1363. Lu Ping looked at the dragon-shaped relief in his hand and asked with a smile, Are there many like you in this Tao altar world? Many? You must be joking. When the dragon-shaped relief saw that it couldn't break free from Lu Ping's 2 fingers, it stopped moving like a dead loach. However, it said proudly, I can't say that I'm the only one, but I'm definitely the one who's still alive. Lu Ping frowned and said, Alive? What do you mean? The dragon-shaped relief shook its head and said, "In the past, I could still feel an aura similar to mine in this world, but now it's gone." Where did they go? They melted away. Anyway, they can't leave this world. Once they leave, they must erase the protective intent in the stone. A large part of our existence is due to the protection of these intents. Since we're erased, we naturally don't exist anymore. When Lu Ping saw that it had become obedient, he retracted his 2 fingers and asked, "What kind of existence are you? Dragon? Artifact spirit? Spirit demon?" The dragon-shaped relief shook its head as if Lu Ping had just squeezed its neck to the point of pain. It then said, "I don't know what kind of existence I am. If it's a spirit demon, I can't seem to escape this broken stone. If it's an artifact spirit, without the nourishment of true essence, I've long been muddle-headed. How could I clearly remember everything since I gained consciousness? As for dragons, don't joke around. Even Jiao Daoren, who gave me existence, isn't a dragon." "You know quite a lot." The dragon-shaped relief ignored Lu Ping's suspicions and said directly, "My existence should originate from the intent sealed in this broken stone, which is Jiao Daoren's intent. However, after I completely gained consciousness, this Dao altar world has become like this. I've been buried in the soil that you dug out. I don't know what happened in the Dao altar world or how I was buried in the soil. After my consciousness appeared, this world has been opened dozens of times. After listening to your stories, I naturally understood many things about you existences." Lu Ping nodded and said, "What do you intend to do? Do you still want to keep you in this world?" The dragon-shaped relief said, "What are you staying here for? Waiting to die? I'm just an existence condensed from a Jiao Daoren's mantra intent. Even though I possess a consciousness of my own, I'm confined within this rock, and along with the wear-away of time, I'll still slowly die. Otherwise, why would I give you a reminder when you've just entered the world of the Dao altar?" Lu Ping was surprised. "You want me to bring you out of the Dao altar world? I was even more afraid that you would kill me as soon as you appeared. So after I guided you to the broken rock where I was hiding, I hid my existence. I didn't expect that you would still find me in the end. Don't we have to erase the will in the gravel to bring it out of the Dao altar world? If that's the case, how would you still be alive?" Lu Ping asked in puzzlement. "You can do it, and only you can do it." The dragon-shaped relief could only appear on the surface of the broken rock, but Lu Ping could hear the solemnity in the relief's tone. "You cultivate the orthodox cultivation method of Jiao Daoren, and the Dharma form in your body is even more similar to a true dragon than Jiao Daoren's true spirit body. In other words, it's more similar to my relief body. But more importantly, your divine sense, is closer to a divine dragon than your bloodline and Dharma form. It's even like a divine dragon's divine soul. Although I don't know how you understand the divine dragon true body so well to be able to condense such a similar Dharma form, this is your own secret, and I don't want to know. But I only know that with your current condition, you can completely refine this broken rock and keep it as a magic weapon for yourself. In this way, you can bring this broken rock out of the Dao altar world." "Refine it as a magic weapon?" Lu Ping laughed and said, "Previously, I used my true essence to refine it for 3 days, but I didn't see the slightest trace of refining." The dragon-shaped relief said angrily, "You call that refining? You're simply trying to take my life, so I naturally have to hide far away. But if you have my cooperation, you can naturally refine this stone smoothly. It sounds like you're more like an artifact spirit. You can completely see me as an independent artifact spirit that can maintain its spirituality without the nourishment of a cultivator's true essence. If you let me refine you now, doesn't that mean that your life and death will be in my hands? At that time, everything you control will be known by me, and you will have no bargaining chips to speak of. If I really have evil intentions during the refining process, you can only vanish into thin air." The dragon-shaped relief laughed bitterly and said, "Do you think that staying in this Dao altar world, my consciousness will not dissipate? So I can only bet on your character." Lu Ping smiled slightly and said, "As you wish." Lu Ping placed his palm on the broken stone, and a rich true essence was released from his hand. Then, It completely seeped into the broken stone. The entire broken stone was dyed blue and purple by Lu Ping's true essence. A loud bang exploded in Lu Ping's mind. Soaring Dragon Galaxy technique. Lu Ping's expression showed a trace of pain, but his palm was still tightly pressed on the broken stone. The whole process lasted for about an entire day before Lu Ping's expression gradually eased. However, he did not wake up because of this. Instead, he once again fell into seclusion. There was only a day left before the Tao altar world closed. At this time, Tiancheng, Lao Zhu, and the others all gathered outside the place where Lu Ping was cultivating. Martial uncle, there are only a few hours left. Only now did he realize that no matter what, the four major sects of the South Sea were able to stand out and fight against Skyward Pavilion this time. No matter how he looked at it, it was a little unexpected. It's the Ba Gui clan. Lu Ping came out from his seclusion. Seeing the joy on everyone's faces, he nodded at everyone and said, "The reason why Skyward Pavilion is guarding the estuary of Qingming River is not only to defend against the demon race of the Endless Mountain, but also the Ba Gui clan of the South Sea. That is a power that can truly rival a sacred ground. Since the four major sects of the South Sea dared to provoke Skyward Pavilion, I'm afraid the problem lies with the Ba Gui clan of the South Sea's cultivation world." Lu Ping's coming out of seclusion made everyone feel relieved. However, Tiancheng Laozu still asked curiously, "The Ba Gui clan? Doesn't this clan always stay in a corner of the South Sea's cultivation world and rarely stir up trouble in the cultivation world?" Lu Ping said, "I'm afraid only the Ba Gui clan knows about this." Lu Ping's coming out of seclusion freed Jinling and the others from their restraints. The five of them left their seclusion grounds. The world of the Tao altar was about to close, so they needed to find a safe place and focus on leaving this place. At this moment, in Lu Ping's core space, the broken stone was currently sinking to the bottom of the suspended sea formed by the triple light sacred water. The dragon Dharma power was currently circling around the broken stone curiously. From time to time, it would look at the dragon-shaped relief on the broken stone wall with its huge eyes. Clearly, this object that was extremely similar to the dragon Dharma power had aroused its interest. At this moment, in the sky above the broken stone, the pure young pearl was floating in the center of the triple light sacred water. The 9 leaves of a mature 5-element samling leaf were currently shining with different lights. Layers of mysterious brilliance were emitted from the leaves of the 9th sister, which then seeped out from the pure young pearl and finally melted into the seawater formed by the triple light sacred water. A loud sound came from the sky, and a huge spatial passageway gradually opened. Lu Ping and the others felt the spatial imprint on them disappear, and they suddenly disappeared from the world of the Tao altar. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.